welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We just saw Camelot Kings make their way through and claim the first spot in the 6th group of our tournament. They'll be playing again on Saturday. But before we get into the next matchup, let's talk about Amazon Prime. And I want to just give them a giant shout out here and thank them for being the title sponsor of the SPL for this year. And you've already seen what new games that you can grab with Prime this month on that little VT there. But make sure that you're getting the most out of your membership with all other exclusive Prime content that it has to offer. And if you're not already a Prime, if you're not a Primer, it might be time to become one. You get so much free stuff out of this. You get free Twitch subs, you can get free games, free game content, free Amazon delivery, and oh, so much more. So don't delay. Go get some Prime today. But you know what else is happening today, Ro?
Warriors vs Titans right now.
That's what I was going to say. Only Warriors versus the Tartarus Titans, the next matchup and the first elimination game of the day.
An important one because both teams, you know, I think coming into this tournament quite confident. So maybe surprised to find themselves in this situation, but both teams pretty evenly matched as well. So I think both teams, I mean, this is a stacked side of the bracket, right? On the other side, I guess you have the weaker teams in the Valkyries and the other qualifier from the SEC, and then Bolts and Dragons, which are the top teams. But this is kind of middle of the pack fighting to scrape into that next day.
And we're going to have to see how they scrape it out in picks and bans. Charging straight in here, Ro, we've already seen one draft each from each of these two teams. Are we expecting anything similar, maybe some changes from those initial picks?
I think Warriors had quite a rough game, just because they were up against Leviathans, who kind of got off to an early lead, and Warriors couldn't fight back like the Kings do, I suppose. Titans, on the other hand, kind of had, a unique draft. They had an Ula solo, Ola in mid, and weren't able to siege these games. So that's the problem that they had. I imagine they'll pick some more frontline for themselves so they can get up to these towers so they can actually do damage to them, and then they can actually, if they want to brawl early, they can still pick that in terms of, maybe a frontline warrior, which we've seen less favorable in the solo lane, or an assassin like Cleaner. I know Solo or Troll, good on things like that as well. Susano, I've seen him play Fenrir, but King Arthur as well. I think I would like to see him on something more traditional than the Eula.
And we did talk about the potential of ADCs in that solo role at the start of last week. Haven't seen it at all beyond the Ola. I don't know if the Ola was a bad look, but for sure, they definitely needed that secondary front line, I think.
Yeah, he did quite well in lane, but that's what Ula does. It's where he fell short in the team fights and sieging. So I don't think they'll be picking that again, unless it's something they've just been running a lot in scrims, and they just will be infinitely confident in it. I can't imagine they'll still be picking it. I would say that it was one of the bigger problems that they had in that game, so I hope to not see it again. And we've seen Khepri up against Jingwei already. Jingwei, I think, being first picked every game so far today.
I think that's accurate, yeah. Khepri getting drafted up against this isn't something that I dislike, although you are already putting yourself up against some CC, which Khepri isn't super fond of. It is going to interrupt that Scarab's Blessing if the Titans want to put that on. But Jingwei not necessarily the biggest threat to that, of course. Just a small knock-up, but of course, it is still there. This is going to be the dual lane for the Tartarus Titans, though, pairing up the Chernobog. This is what we saw from the Kings in that last game.
And the Warriors played it as well. I think they played the Morrigan with the Chernobog, so they had the double Chernobog flying. So this time, not opting to top 2 the Morrigan like they did in the start of the day, but they still clearly prefer to have the Chernobog on their team. So it's seen success, and it's seen some rough games from today. It just seems like one of the better defaults into a Jingwei.
Yeah, I think it's interesting we haven't seen too much of the Heimdall so far today. Instead, there has very much been this dichotomy of either we get Jing or we get Chernobog. There hasn't seemed to be much contention for that Heimdall, who we were seeing in the mix there in that top 3 throughout the rest of the week, with the Rama as well, another pickup that surprised we haven't seen more of so far. But the Cleo and the Geb are going to be picked up here by the Oni Warriors. That Cleo very likely going into the solo lane. I'm not sure that we've actually seen Cleo in the jungle so far in this tournament.
No, it just seems to be stronger in the solo lane. Great synergy with those builds in terms of Soul Eater and just having that poke and that pressure. We see even Cleo's on losing teams still topping the damage charts because you have so much damage overall. I like the fact that Nika's back on an assassin. I think he played Bastet the last time. I think it's seen great success. I just need, if Neek is playing an assassin, I want to see Kubo Fred on something like a Kabrakan, for example, something that has more setup for the team, because that's what they're missing when they have an assassin solo lane.
Potentially could be leaning towards that. Could even look for the Hombats here. It's something that we've seen work to some effect from the Valkyries specifically, as well as Johnny earlier on in the week. But for now, just going to be sticking with that Geb for Neil. The Nemesis coming up from the Titans. Is this going to be pound for pound the Camelot Kings draft? And sorry, as I say that, the Homebats actually gets banned away here.
Yeah, I mean, smart call on that as well, because that would be in the type of engage that QVFred kind of needs to bring to this team comp. Otherwise, again, Neilmar's going to be picked off at the front line with nobody backing him up. So Fenrir also that type as well. So hopefully QVFred has something in the pocket that he can use. I think Cabrakan is a great answer to that. I think Cabrakan does fine against the Nemesis, does quite well into the Capri, he can wall him off, and only Chernobog can dash into his walls as well. So again, another dash on the side of Titans. So I would say Cabrakan, as long as people still think he's viable in the jungle since this patch change, could be a great pickup here.
And this Apollo, this is such an interesting pickup for me, Ro. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is probably the mid laner here for the Tartarus Titans, unless they want to flex this back into the solo lane. There is still that opening there. Apollo, classically Season 2, I think, is the last time we really saw him picked up consistently in the solo lane. Talai Season 3, I believe, was that last point of Apollo popularity, but that's definitely an interesting pickup. Not one of the alternate ADCs we've been seeing so far in this tournament.
And not something I want to see in the solo lane, I'll be honest. Obviously, Titans have a strategy. If they are putting it in the solo lane, and they have put the Ula in the solo lane so far, they clearly have a strategy, and I've seen Solo Troll play that before. Now we're seeing Hebo in the...
I'm looking at this Artemis and the Jingwei on the same
Artemis
team.
mid, I suppose.
Yeah, that's why. And the Hachiman picked up here too. Oh boy. Ro,
so
explain
we're
this to
seeing
me.
this is an Apollo Solo Troll will be playing the Apollo solo, I imagine. Maybe the Chernobog, but I would guess the Apollo. It has slightly better matchups. And then I would see on the side of Oni Warriors, Hebo jungle, Cleo solo. I'm gonna say Artemis in mid lane and then Jingwei in the ADC role. Both pretty unconventional team comps. You know, Titans clearly doubling down on their triple hunter strategy and saying this is what's good, this is what we believe in. They already struggled with it once. They had an Olorin in that case, but my opinion is that they couldn't make the space and they couldn't force fights. And even though they have a lot of tower damage, a lot of objective damage, it's starting those objectives and baiting in fights. All they've got to bait into, I suppose, is a Capri ult this time. And if Capri can get a pull on somebody, yes, they can blow them up, but you're contesting with a Geb shield at that point.
Yeah, I do like, in fairness to them, I do like the move away from Magical Hunters. I don't think Magical Hunters are particularly strong at the moment, with their items especially. I got to agree with you, though. I'm not sure that this triple hunter comp is it. And looking on the flip side of that, Oni Hunters, with the Jingwei and the Artemis, one of these is fine. Typically, we would prefer to see maybe a slightly more ability-based hunter going into that mid lane position, something with some clear, maybe the Neath that is available. Ula is off the board, but...
Ula and AMC both banned, but it looks like their go-to after that is Artemis. I've seen Dardes play things like Unher. I've seen him play Rama and Jingwei in mid back in Season 4 or 5 when he was on Mouse Esports, so a long time ago, and it looks like they're just back on that train. Hebo, at least they have some magical damage mixed in with the hunter damage, whereas on the side of Titans, it's 3 physical hunters, but they do have that prot shred with Nemesis and Capri as well. So as long as they're hitting that prot shred, the hunters will still do damage, but it's going to be relatively easy for Oni Warriors to itemize against these triple hunters.
See, I'm looking at this Artemis in particular. I'm thinking it's going to be a really rough one for Dardes to pull into that mid lane. No mobility, so to speak. You do have, of course, Caledonian Boar. You've got the movement speed stim. There's a lot of gap close when you look between the Nemesis, the Chernobog, even the route out from Capri. There's a lot of options for this Titans roster to be able to close gap and kill the Artemis, and I'm very worried. Mid lane is already a very heavily ganked lane.
To be fair, though, we've just seen BMT. He played, what, Kukulkan and Nuwa. So 2 pretty easy to kill gods, but he's just going to sit under his tower. I imagine Dardes and the Artemis will do something similar to that.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the first game in our elimination side. Let's see who's going to take it to that first point. Oni Warriors or the Tartarus Titans. It's going to be J-Mac and Trelly.
Thank you so much, Blazy and Rose. We jump into game 1 of our first elimination set with the SPL teams, and it should be a very hot set between these ones. And unfortunately, Charlie, when we were going back and forth on where at least maybe one of us would like to see, you know, X or Y pick, it does more so line up where you were thinking out here. Nika taking the clean over into the solo lane. Dardes on the Artemis mid. but it will be SOT taking the Apollo to the solo lane. So maybe let's talk about this Artemis mid. I think that might be one of the more standout picks amongst this roster.
Yeah, the only Warriors draft I called. I'm going to be honest, I was really looking for the Apollo in the jungle, and we've seen SOT go the Nem solo, so I thought maybe he could be whipping that out. But Tartarus is going to have some trouble clearing, and I think that's why he's not going for the Dev Gauntlets. Looks like he might be going for that Transcendent start. The Morning Star tree is going to give you more ability damage, which is going to help you clear that wave much more effectively. Tusky is going to be hitting like a truck when you're building that way, so it's going to be a little bit better for your early pressure, just making sure you don't get camped in this lane. I think it's a smart bet. And then Cubo backing up with some magical damage because you already have the double hunter. You want the crushing wave. That's going to bring a lot of damage as well.
Dart is getting a lot of poke up against Layers. Already put him down to a quarter HP. Cubo does manage to juke out the 1-2 combo from Paul. Now we've kind of talked a little bit about this Artemis mid, maybe we kind of move over to the triple hunter composition that the Tartarus Titans have picked up. SOT taking this Apollo to the solo lane. We've heard, discussion about the potential of seeing these hunters to the solo and how good hunters are, but now we finally get to see them put their money where their mouth is.
Yeah, we'll have to see how this is able to match up against the Kleena. I mean, obviously right now, not going to have the best clear. As Kleena is able to level up and get her ultimate, you get some charges onto the wave. That's going to be a great time, but you're always going to be getting out-poked. You both have a fair bit of lifesteal. Looks like Soul Eater start for Nika probably, and then the Dev Gauntlets or the Blood Forge for SOT. I mean, honestly, I guess it could be a Soul Eater as well in that regard, but either way, Layers does take the trap there. That was a lot of damage. I had to pause myself real quick to see if Dardas could clean that one up.
Okay, so Dardas can't clear. We'll discuss that. You just mentioned that. Dardas does still hurt, though, because that's like the third time that he has caught Layers with that third ability, just getting a lot of poke over onto the jungle. Cubo has been allowed to free farm in this jungle on this Habwa and be able to pick himself up level 3 now because he's just soloing the camps. He's letting Dardas have as much of this wave as he wants.
Yeah, I'm glad that Ullr was not picked this game because with both of their third abilities, I start to get them mixed up. Hail of Arrows is Ullr 3, but Suppress the Insolent is Artemis's 3, and they look so similar, just arrows falling from the sky. Either way, though.
Yeah, it is a hailing of arrows coming from Artemis as well. I mean, I understand.
Yeah, but Suppress the Insolent, what
sounds cooler.
Yeah, it does sound cooler.
It sounds way cooler.
It does sound like Artemis is gonna just suppress the insolent. That's exactly. She's always, her taunts are great too. She always says, "You want to be come into my range if you want to be a pin cushion." So
that is true.
Staying away from Dardes is gonna be the name of the game later. Right now, though, I imagine you want to put some pressure into that mid lane because, as we mentioned, not gonna have the easiest time clearing. But you're looking at Paul. Chernobog doesn't want to fight that much early either. Neither one of these picks are looking to get that aggressive until, you know, these junglers start making the rotations, and Cubo on this Hebo does have the blink, so a blink crushing wave could be pretty disastrous in that mid lane. No one has Aegis at the moment, so you're going to be eating the full brunt of that crushing wave once it does come through. Yeah,
it is just going to be beads and blinks on the side of the Oni Warriors. Meanwhile, a few sets of beads and Aegis, a blink, and a shell picked up by Aurora. So the one kind of team fight relic picked up on the entirety of this map is over for Aurora. And we are seeing a slightly different start from kind of both of these supports. In a previous game we had where it was a Spirit Robe rush out of supports. We've seen the typical Gauntlet of Thebes. Aurora going to be going for the Glowing Emerald, but Neilma going for some physical defense or an Iron Mail very early on.
Yeah, that better be a Sovereignty. You're up against 3 Hunters and a Nemesis. I have to imagine getting some Fizz Prot for your team will be pretty solid. Cubo could even go into a Jade Emp, a Celestial Legion Helm. Any sort of stacking physical defense auras, I imagine, will be worth their money here. But also, you just want to be going very fast in that lane, or in the jungle rather. So I can see why Cubo wants to do move online first. Just want to try and match the Golden Blade pressure that, of course, Layers is going to be going for here. You get a little bit of movement speed. Then you also get those AoE autos to clear out these camps as effectively as possible. So trying to match some of that, I think, is going to be a smart bet.
Cubo finds the knock-up, dash in by Layers to get some damage. The shield goes up to hold Cubo back. Crushing Wave used to get back, but now the Nika has joined the fray. Layers gets silenced out, but the party has arrived with Paul and both SOT crashing in. SOT gets credit for first blood, and Layers squeaks by on the tail end of the fight to get up one for the Titans.
Looks like SOT might try to finish off here, but he's a little bit stuck, and Nika will be able to chase this one down as well. It's going to take a bit. No way.
No, the dash is enough. Paul throws out the one to hold him back, and SOT somehow both him and Layers able to make it out of that fight without either of them dying.
Yeah, that was a clutch Aegis. I think that was just for the bluestone ticks because obviously there was no more clean abilities coming. That was just in case that was able to clean up, and Paul had the defense there as well. So the Apollo solo already making the rotation in and getting out scot-free. That's going to help get the Dev Gauntlets online already going back into lane. You're losing your Relic, but you're going to find a lot of pressure being able to stack that one up early. It's going to be a little bit more power than that Soul Eater right now.
Nika will be able to start stacking up his Soul Eater in response. So lifesteal for lifesteal on the solo laners, though SOT will take a little bit longer to stack his comparatively, but will provide him quite a hefty bit of power. If I'm not mistaken, like 70 power once that item is fully stacked up. And it's part of the reason why we're seeing it as such a popular item for these hunters to grab.
Yeah, I'm wanting to see a lot of poke in that lane. Layers is trying to find the 1v1 against Cubo again. I think he was more so looking for that speed buff invade, but will just get a little bit of poke. I want to see a lot of fighting from these solo laners right now. I just imagine with the amount of healing you have, they're able to just trade so effectively. We've seen some Layers sort of sitting around this area, maybe looking to find some ganks if possible. The 1v1 against Cubo didn't go so well, but he's not going to be done shooting. I think he's going to keep trying to look for some aggression here. You have to, right? When you're up against a comp like this, where you know you have a lot of physical characters, you have to try to get that lead early.
Can you believe that Dardes on Artemis is the only hunter in this game that doesn't build Devourer's Gauntlets? Everybody else has got that item on. Meanwhile, it's Dardes going for a Transcendence.
Yeah, I just think he wants that ability damage. Again, I want to see how hard Tusky is hitting as this game goes on. Neilma, though, makes the rotation over. No beads available, but we'll be able to pre-ult.
Is there enough damage to get SOT? The answer is no. Even with the bluestone ticks after, it's not enough to drop down the hunter for the Titans. And SOT will be able to fly his way all the way back to base to make sure that he is just fine.
He actually flew all the way to well. That was a long Apollo flight. You have the blue buff, so I guess you are able to do so. The longer you're in the air, the more mana it will take. But I think recognizing that SOT does not have beads, has Aegis, so that Cataclysm will always get value. The pre-ult was pretty nice as well, just to avoid that, and SOT is now going to be a little bit less safe and a little bit less global in the next coming minute or two. But he was able to get out of there and waste a fair bit of damage, and now Neilma is back in the mid lane, not able to really help out. A level down because of that rotation, but it's your support. You're not too worried about it just yet. Sovereignty's already finished.
We do see a little bit more from Neil this game, however. In their game earlier on in the day, Neil was kind of being accosted for the rest of his team, you know, being the lone tank and still being the lone tank in this game. So as we start getting to these late game team fights, Charlie, I mean, where is Neil going to be able to find that impact on this Geb?
I'm glad you brought that up because I think Neil already has made some corrections to the way he played that first game where he was the sole tank and not able to get active at all. He has Blink. He's not trying to sit back and say, I'm going to, you know, be the lonely Geb. I'll sort of frontline, but I'm just going to stand here. He wants to be the aggressor. He wants the Blink Cataclysm set up for his team. As long as his team's following him up, they have a very all-in style draft where they can just drop the board, drop Crushing Wave, drop everything, and hopefully at the end of that, you've won the fight. If that doesn't happen, that's when you really have to start looking at changing up your playstyle. But I think Neil does not want to sit on his heels anymore.
We get to see a little bit of the strength of Kleena in the solo lane showcased by Nika. Easy to full clear there. SOT does find the mez on Nika's dash to kind of slow him down there. But a three-man grouping by the Warriors on this right side of the map. Not sure they're going to be able to grab SOT, especially with his ult coming back off of cooldown right now. Instead, some aggression towards Layers, stealing away his back camps.
Yeah, it looks like everyone is going to be around here. SOT knew this was coming, so sat very far underneath that tower. And it looks like Aurora finally will be joining this side of the map. He was sitting around duo and mid a little bit more, soaking up a bit more farm as Layers gets launched towards the...
Wow, Layers loses half of his HP in a double combo there from Cuvo and Neil. Now you can start to see some of the strengths of this Geb Habwa combo. And with no beads out of Layers, one Cataclysm could be the end of his life in a single team fight.
Yeah, they have a fair bit of burst as long as the shield's not up. Even if you do, oh, hold the thought.
Double Cataclysm, Crushing Wave, and Dardes to finish the job right after. The Oni Warriors finally put themselves on the board, stamping a kill for Dardes.
So yeah, like I was saying, and they've got a lot of burst, and as long as you time it off that CC, it really doesn't matter. Layers
True.
Gonna be taking the quickest trip back to base. And Cuba holds on to the Blink. I'm glad that Neil is getting active, man. This Geb pick, it's great to just sit there and shield your teammates, that sort of thing. But when you're able to initiate, you're able to be that go button. Even Aurora's Scarab's Blessing just isn't quick enough. He's not close enough to be able to save your teammates there.
Blue buff will be stolen away by the Warriors. Aurora chasing them out on that right side of the map. Meanwhile, Dardes will continue his own free farm in that mid lane, just hitting over to 10. and just a few stacks away from his Transcendence being finished up. Everybody across the board with their Devourer's Gauntlets are completely stacked up, so Darda is just a little bit further behind, but it does take a little bit longer for that item to come up, at least for purchase, does cost just a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't envy the position these junglers are in right now, looking at the duo lane gank opportunities. Hachiman and Jingwei, some of the safest hunters
oh boy,
you
what
can
will
get.
I do?
Yeah, you see some wards, you see some vision on that left side of the map, but I don't imagine that either of these junglers will spend too much time on that side of the map unless something gets forced out. We've seen Layers. He doesn't have beats, right? He doesn't want to get caught against Neil with that Cataclysm. He doesn't want to take any 1v1s versus Cuvo anymore, so maybe he'll look towards that left side of the map where he's able to box against Vote a little bit better. That shield eating up some of the crit damage that comes through will be a solid bet, but it doesn't look like there's anything really forced just yet. The ult and the relics are still up for both of these ADCs.
So if you are the Warriors and recognizing that Layers is still, a level and a half away from picking up those beads, do you just repeat what you did last time around? We'll see if that's the case, as Layers just pokes back. Aurora caught in the middle of all. Good body blocks by Neil will lock him in place. A good trap will hold him there. The Scare's Blessing will get him back to the life and immediately back down to the grave, unless a root from Aurora actually was perfect to save his life. Somehow he makes it out, maybe not. Cubo blinks, the knockup not enough. Just a good shield by Aurora out of his own passive to keep him up.
That was nuts. I thought Layers had the body blocks, but Cubo was able to hit everything, even with the Nemesis. Just like, it was almost like a basketball three-pointer. You're like, waving hands in his face. You can't see him, you can't see him. It wasn't enough, though. He hit everything, but Aurora is able to make it out on that one. So pretty clutch plays of just regen and a little bit of luck, I would say, to make sure that goes down. Neil, though, will be getting aggressive upon here.
He rolled through the jungle right in front of 3. He'll have a Cataclysm for Layers, but that'll be the end of his life. It's SOT. Credit to the kill. Nika trying to put that poke back. The Fire Giant coming into play to help out Nika. He'll go through the wall. Needs a little bit more to catch SOT out. No blink and no dash. Means that fight is ended. But instead, it's another fight over on the left. Paul was forced out, and Nico will clean up the kill for Paul going in.
Yeah, Nico was definitely chasing SOT, but found a free kill onto the Chernbog. Now he wants the blue buff, and he's taking a fair bit of damage, and Cubo doesn't have the man to help him out. I can't imagine they're able to dive this tower here, so they will just be happy with the blue buff invade and possibly pushing that wave under. SOT is 2-0 now. We'll be able to finish that Shin size and build into what I can only assume is the Silver Branch or the Odibo. Either one is going to go pretty well here for the solo lane Hunter, but he almost found a kill, and it looks like he's going to ult back in.
Hey, just got to get back to wave, maybe. Go for a kill up against Nika. Quick beads out of the cleanup. But SOT walked into a 2v1. Does he have enough sustain to fight back against him? He has no mana, and now with Neil on the way, this should be an easy kill on SOT, who will pay for the over-aggression.
Yeah, that's a play I would see my ranked solo Apollo do. Yeah, I would see my ranked solo Apollo ult back in, invade the blue buff, and then say, where was my team? So a little overzealous there, I think. SOT probably wanted to just take that 1v1 and then realized there was 3 there and was like, well, I used all my mana getting here. I might as well just start auto-attacking. So nice, solid kill there on the solo lane Apollo we were just mentioning. You might be looking to get aggressive on the left side of the map. Gold Fury might be a possibility, but looking at the health bars and the mana bars of everyone, I don't think, even with that pick, the Oni Warriors are going to be looking to do anything. Just get the red buff for Paul, and now they're backing off here. Neil was trying to get a little bit aggressive. I think they realized we have a little bit of pressure. We don't have to worry about the Chariot coming in, but they're just going to go back to the farm game.
For now, though, the Warriors are down just a little bit in gold. XP, they're ahead, nearly 2K. That 500 gold disparity slowly closing itself up against the Tartarus Titans. And Nika going for a second stacking out of his own. Transcendence picked up after a Soul Leader is going to give him a lot of extra power. But I think the one thing that maybe catches my eye here, and we might have to talk about it, should a fight break out afterwards, as Aurora does dash away. But the item kind of catching my eye is what Dardas has gone second. Atalanta's bow. Haven't seen this in a while.
Yeah, I love the Atalanta's bow. It's just a very stacked item. It used to be much more stacked, took some nerfs, but on a character like Artemis, as we see SOT up against 3, might be in some trouble here.
Does eat a bit of poke from Nika. Aurora and Layers rotating in. Aurora does find the grab up against Neil. Neil still holding on to Cataclysm's going to need to use it as soon as Paul joins the party, but Neil will go down. SOT up on the Chariot to continue the chase. But will he go for the clean or will he go for the Habois? Not sure either is a great answer back. Nika does stay inside the wall to avoid any further pressure. But the Titans have 4 on this side of the map.
Yeah, Dardas doesn't have Blink or anything like that, but still does have the Boar if wanting to use it. Aurora dashes in. It looks like they are going to chase this down.
Layers got to use his beads, and it's a Scare's Blessing to continue the chase for this Nemesis. It does get popped, and that will put Layers back to the rest of his team. Dardas and Cubo will have to count their blessings that the fight ends because of that ult pop.
Yeah, but the Pyromancer is going to be looked at now, and it seems Dardes and Cuvo are aware of this. Nika has the vision on it as well, but it burned so quickly.
Nika probably not expecting how much damage that did. Does find the silence against SOT. Dardes rotating over, but thinking twice about that rotation. Meanwhile, all this time, while all this fighting has been happening on the right side of the map, Vote and Cyclone have not left the left side. They have been sitting inside their respective lanes and jungles the entirety of this game.
Yeah, their XP per minute is pretty similar. Looks like Vote has a small lead in that regard, but I have to imagine that lanes looked like, hey, I'm going to clear, you're going to clear. You want to fight? I don't really want to fight. Do you want to fight? No. And then they just run back and do their things. Again, no relics, no ultimates for either of them, and I imagine it will stay like that for quite some time until this Gold Fury starts to be looked at. We're at the point where Cuvo has a fair bit of one-shot potential, but being only level 13, you don't really want to fight these level 15 hunters that have the crit online.
A little bit of aggression from Paul up against Dardes, and well, when you have a decent lead over towards this mid 3v3, you might as well try and abuse it. Tartarus Titans will walk over towards the Gold Fury, but not going to start it up just yet. Waiting to see if they can find any Oni Warriors out of position. The Vote will be fine on this Jingwei as he goes back into lane. Neil, standing on a ward, will be spotted by Aurora. Gold Fury ping-ponging between Layers and Paul, and now the aggression over towards Neil. Finds a good ultimate to stun 2, and the knock-up after to keep the Titans away.
Yeah, Cubo's on the right side of the map. Dardes isn't very close either. It looks like Neil and Vote are around. It's being burned down pretty quickly now.
Vote needs one shot to get it. Will not steal it away, but how will the fight go afterwards? Vote down to half HP, double knockup, and SOT from the skies will crash on in. Paul is now rejoined the fight, and that'll get Vote's ultimate out. Neil Ma gets stuck on the rollout, and Paul is the one to find the kill.
Yeah, the Tartarus Titans able to answer back pretty huge there, and it looks at the gold lead, about 2K in their favor. Aurora is just bullying Vote at his purple buff at the moment, not wanting to let that go down for free. I mentioned that Cubo was nowhere near this side of the map. That's the biggest burst tool, that's your biggest steal tool, and he just was not anywhere near this left side, not near this Fury. Maybe trying to chase something down after the fact, but the objective's been done. There's really nothing else to get. You have to just count your blessings and back up at this point, because Pyromancer's not coming up for a while either. You really don't have anything else to force. The Tartarus Titans were able to get that Gold Fury and get out just as quickly as they needed to.
And you can see why they made that quick retreat. There was a ward covering that opening point in towards the jungle for the Tartarus Titans coming out of that mid lane. So as soon as they see Nika and Cuvo walk over that, and now Neil rolling through, that was the instant call from the Titans to back away. So tower still stands on the left side of the map, but it will be down to about half HP. While the Tartarus Titans remain that gold lead, it's still important to know that the XP lead was still favoring the Oni Warriors, about 2,400 up for them. As I said, even though the gold is maybe not so great, SOT under the tower, use the Aegis to delay a little bit longer, but it only delays the inevitable.
Yeah, that's why Cubo's on this side of the map, because you're a very squishy Apollo. Hunter's in the solo lane, might be able to get some pressure, but looking at the XP, 3 levels down, had to use both relics and still died. Well, just the Aegis that time, not the beats. Either way, that tower could be looking pretty trouble too. Layers is going to get some trouble as well.
Layers walks up, does find the ult on a Cubo. The dash after is enough damage to take him down, so Layers manages to find a 1-for-1 pick. And Layers will be able to get himself back to base. Nika will be just fine up against Aurora and Paul on this right side of the map. But a nice turnaround kill.
Yeah, nice turnaround kill. Again, it's on a level 14 Apollo, so making sure that SOT stays down is going to help you out in the later stages of the game, but also not worth too much gold anymore. Aurora is actually going to pull this Fire Giant here, and no one's too close. Neil is here and has ult available.
Neil and Nika both here. SOT crashes down from his ult. Neil does find a few of the Cataclysm, but he's going to get pulled right back into the pit, and maybe to his death, but no, Tusky has now been shot through. SOT very low. Nika able to close out and pick up that kill. Paul low, and Paul should go down unless he can lifesteal through all of this. Aegis is used, but it's not going to be enough as Dardes picks up one into the fight, and the Fire Giant call by the Titans has gone absolutely sour. Nika finds the double kill. Layers finds a path on out unless Dardes can find one more basic to close it out, and he does.
That's a clutch Aegis as well. No one will be able to finish off Dardes here. Only Aurora is left alive, and that all started from the Tartarus Titans pulling this Fire Giant, getting a little bit overzealous, and now it looks like the Oni Warriors should have a pretty free shot at this. I don't imagine that Aurora's going to make any clutch plays, and the global ultimates are not going to be up in time, so the Oni Warriors able to climb their gold lead back in. Remember, the XP was already in their favor, but they're able to climb this gold lead back in their favor, and the Fire Giant will go their way as well.
It was a kind of a slower response from the Warriors to get into that Fire Giant pit, but Neil seemingly kind of single-handedly obviously had Nika off towards his side there, but the Tartarus Titans, they kind of pulled themselves off that Fire Giant and dumped so much into Neil Ma. Charlie, I mean, how in the world do the Titans, you know, make a flub like that?
I mean, I just don't think it was a great call. Neil has so much CC, and he has built essentially to survive. He's got Sovereignty, he has Witchblade, he has the Horrific Emblem now as well, the upgraded Horrific Emblem, I should say. He has so much to just stall, and Nika is almost level 20. He's doing so much damage. All he had to do was sit there for a little bit, they get overconfident, and now pretty free Fire Giant. They're able to just push their lead. The Oni Warriors can really do whatever they want. There's still 3 tier 2 towers available and 1 tier 1 tower that has a sliver of HP on the left side of the map, trying to get a pick onto Aurora here.
Or half HP and gone. Not even a chance to hit the ground. A CC chain perfectly executed by the Oni Warriors. Takes down the Hug Bug, and the Tartarus Titans will be without their support for another 30 seconds.
Yeah, a little bit too far up there. Doesn't have the beads available, obviously, with the Bracer and the Shell, so there's really nothing that you can try and do to survive that one. It's a little bit too far up. Now, Tier 2 tower will be looked at, but look at what the Titans are doing here. Split pushing. They're trying to get that mid-Tier 2 tower with Nika defending it.
Nika's doing a lot of damage back. Layers was tanking up that tower, but for too long. Nika gets a punishing kill up against Layers, and that opens up the door for the left side Phoenix to go handedly to the Oni Warriors. They have stormed up everything off this left side of the map. They've taken and stripped away any defenses left. And now Nika once again has to make another defense on the right side. Will not be able to save this tier 2 tower.
Yeah, it looks like Paul and SOT are going to have to run away here, but Nika's not going to let them back. He has the chase down if he needs to, while the Oni Warriors are simply grabbing Oni Fury. This split push strategy did help them stay in the gold lead a bit, but you lost that left bird. They're answering back with a Pyromancer of their own, so nope, never mind. Nika's still not letting this go down.
Are they really going to get one? No, they're not. SOT's not even going to make it out. Nika single-handedly has thwarted the plans of the Tartarus Titans 3 times. Sure, they got the mid-tier 2, they got the right tier 2, but they ended up losing Layers and now losing SOT and a Pyromancer for all that. Nika is doing work on this cleanup.
Yeah, it looks like Cyclone Spin is just going to be pushing the left side minions as well as he really can right now, but the Oni Warriors, they're not done. Nika essentially has not seen a team fight in quite some time since that Fire Giant. He's just been running back and forth trying to stop everyone, gets a kill up against 3, and now he will be able to help out underneath this mid Phoenix.
Tier 2 goes down in the mid lane. Meanwhile, Cubo Fred will split push the right side by himself along with those Oni minions. And this Phoenix is not very healthy up against Double Hunter from the Oni Warriors. They will shred through that one like tissue paper and move over towards the right side of the map.
Yeah, Cubo's here making sure to get the last hits on this one. Has the Blink and the Crushing Wave available. Not too much damage online for this Evo, but look at those Hunters. Deathbringer, Ornate Arrow. So many crits are going to be flying through. You have 2 Phoenixes down already. And I imagine the Tartarus Titans are going to be pretty split on this Phoenix defense if the Oni Warriors just wait out a little bit, wait for those Fire Minion waves to push in on the left and mid sides.
Group up 5v5. It's only 1 Phoenix left for the Tartarus Titans. Nika will put 1 gaze inside the wall, 1 veil to be opened up. The second one tears through Cyclone Spin, down to half HP, but so is the Phoenix. The Oni Warriors will not push too much further. Still waiting for another minion wave to show, but for now, they will make their retreat as Fire Giant buff falls off in just 10 seconds.
Yeah, they are just going to back off there, but as far as the Fire Giant goes, usually the first one's a setup Fire Giant, so to speak, where you just want to get the tier 2 towers. Maybe you look at possibly getting 1 Phoenix. I'd say getting all 3 tier 2 towers, a tier 1 on left, you get Oni Fury, and then 2 Phoenixes on top of that.
Good.
The Oni Warriors, rather, are probably pretty happy about that. They could just set up for this next one where the Tartarus Titans are going to have to send someone to that left side of the map, someone with global presence to clear those minions, but you also have global minions in the mid lane. I mean, it's going to be so difficult to try and defend against 2 Phoenixes and this Fire Giant. They have the comp to do it. They have the Chernobog. They have this Apollo if they need to, but I just can't imagine they're able to defend this Fire Giant. They might as well just sit in base, J-Mac.
I mean, it's also important to contextualize that this 7,000 gold lead that the Oni Warriors have right now was also a 2,000 plus deficit earlier on. So in this 1 Fire Giant buff, the Oni Warriors have made a 9K gold swing. And look at the experience. It never dipped down for the Oni Warriors. They have had complete control of that, mostly over in this solo lane, as Nika has just absolutely won this lane out over SOT. If you're the Tartarus Titans here, Charlie, do you make a hard defense at this fire, or do you just have to let this one go?
It looks like they are going to be setting up a defense here, and I don't hate this play because they have the option to send Paul over very quickly. They have the option to send SOT over very quickly. As long as they're able to defend these fire minions, it's not a terrible call to try and defend this. Fire Giant is getting low, though.
Fire Giant down to half HP. Aurora the only one within range to try and find a steal. That one goes to the Oni Warriors. Another Fire Giant successful for the squad, and only one Phoenix left to take down. Left side bird will be up now, but it's at very low HP. It's a weakened Phoenix, and one that the Oni Warriors should easily be able to walk over and take, should they choose to do so.
Yeah, but with how tanky Neil is right now, he's got 3 physical defense items. He has the blink in when he's ready. I imagine it'll be the blink Cataclysm. Nika will show some pressure through the wall, and then this Phoenix should go down pretty easily. They have a solid bit of defense in their own. They essentially have 3 turrets on the side of the Tartarus Titans. It's just the Oni Warriors turrets, they're hitting a little bit harder.
5 versus 5. Nika trying to maybe find a path in the wall, see if he can get some extra free damage out there. Phoenix still a little bit weakened from the last engagement that the Warriors made on this right-hand side. But the Oni Warriors playing it very slowly, playing it very careful before they make an engagement.
Yeah, left side Phoenix is about to go down. The fire minions are pushing in, and it looks like Layers almost went to go defend, and then realized, no, that's already gone. It looks like the siege on the right side will begin now.
Neil tanking it up, minions finally arriving, but not going to be utilized in order to get any kind of push. The left side Phoenix, as soon as it's respawned, is now gone down once again, this time to the fire minions. That's going to force Layers, and maybe even one more, to go back and defend against the waves that are going to start pushing in. But that opens up the right Phoenix for the Oni Warriors to get some poke back in, but it's more so against Dardas, half HP on this Artemis.
Yeah, remember, there are still a fair bit of ADCs that have made it to their late game portion of the build on the Tartarus Titan side. If you're going to try and tank up this Phoenix shot, you're still going to be taking a fair bit of damage. But now 2 Phoenixes have went down. You don't have to worry about too much, and finally this right Phoenix is getting sieged.
Aurora gets knocked up once, and that's the end of his life. Dardas picks up the first kill of the fight. SOT's beads are now gone, and he is eating 500 crits. Paul dives into the backline right to his own death. Cuvo Fred credited to the kill, and it's now a 3 versus 5. Nika goes to the backline, and Cyclone goes to the grave. Joined by him is SOT, and Layers soon to find after. The Oni Warriors in 27 minutes will storm into the Titan room, take game number 1, and put the Titans on the back foot in this elimination set.
I mean, don't get me wrong, the Tartarus Titans had a lot of hunters, but the Oni Warriors had harder hitting hunters, and then a cleanup that was hitting harder than pretty much anyone on the map at that point. It was just such a lead. We saw from the solo lane specifically like a 4-level deficit. The XP, as we mentioned, was always in the Oni Warriors' favor. The gold, not so much, but once they got it, they did not drop it.
I mean, before we even jumped to that fight, I was looking across, and there was the Witchblade picked up earlier, the horrific emblem, a corrupted blink, and then throw on top of that 3 spectral armors picked up. Not a chance in the world any of those hunters get a valuable crit that game.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You really weren't able to outbox anyone. You can't shred through these tanks at that point. It's just so much of your damage was relying on Layers shredding the protections with that ultimate, and you can only do that to one person.
Not going to be able to find it here. It will be the Oni Warriors taking game number 1. Can they close out the set with a 2-0? We'll find out right after this.
But he had the horsey, and horsey, don't you stop! Fido King, Fido King!
I gave up dabbing for Lynn.
Cool. No more dabbing for Final Call. He looked at me and said, I'm going to be on that stage next year. I'm going to become a world champion.
Ripping through! Titan down, ball 3! A double goal!
1-0 are the scores on the doors in favor of the Oni Warriors. Tartarus Titans, they tried an ambitious comp. They tried to go for that triple hunter style. Again, all this time with 3 physical hunters, right? No, not with that mage in the mix. Didn't quite pan out for them this time around.
No, they tried, get active early, have the Apollo flying to these fights and trying to build an early lead, but it's fragile. Once you get behind and then all of a sudden you're in the team fight stage of the game and you're missing a frontliner or you just have too much damage in the backline and not enough in the front line. Like this cleaner, for example, just poking in so much on the enemy team, on these stats boards that we're going to see soon, Nika will just have a lot of damage, right? Whereas Solo or Troll, he's only in the mix when he's able to fly in and actually hit somebody, but there's nobody in the front line for him to hit. It's really just a Geb who doesn't mind. There's a cleaner that's just going to be able to heal it all up anyway, and that trade is generally going to be in favor of the cleaner versus the Apollo, for example. So triple hunter, not something I like to see. I'm trying to keep my opinions to myself. I don't want to be too opinionated on the broadcast, but I just can't imagine triple hunter is the way to go for this meta. I think we've seen many other teams scale into more effective teamfight compositions with a mage in the middle lane and a traditional, not necessarily warrior, but an assassin or some other kind of utility god in the solo lane. But that's not what Titans are doing. They've shown they've picked it twice now. The first game it was the Uller, and this time it's the Apollo. And it hasn't worked either time. I think, in my opinion, it would be time to abandon ship on that idea and go for something a little more traditional, which they've seen success with throughout the year.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with you here. 3-5-1 for SOT. Paul 1-3-3, and Cyclone Spin with 2 deaths and no kills. So common theming there, 2 more deaths than kills on all of them.
It's just so easy for Oni Warriors to itemize. We've just shifted away from the items, but they had 3 Spectrals up against 3 crit hunters. It's very easy for this Hebo, for example. Instead of a breastplate, sometimes we saw in older metas, he just picks up a Spectral, which now has health on it as well, and it has like 60 defense, physical defense, and he's just happy to go in and dive those hunters in the enemy backline. So when you're that strong, because you've been able to itemize so effectively with the amount of gold that you have, your confidence goes up and your team fight becomes so much better. So that's where Warriors, I think, won the game. It was kind of handed to them, in my opinion, by Titans draft. As long as Titans don't win too much in the early game with this triple hunter, then they can just win the team fights.
And you can see from just the player cameras here, the mood in these 2 booths. The Titans, they're looking a little bit you know, a little bit defeated. Hopefully they'll be able to get themselves back in the game. This roster definitely has the potential to bring this through to a Game 3, right? They have mentally resilient players. Aurora especially leaps to mind when thinking of these players who have that potential to dig deep and really go in for these long sets. And, you know, let's talk about Aurora, because this game and that first set up against the Camelot Kings, this guy has been escaping when he really should not be allowed to escape ever.
Yeah, I mean, the pressure is being put on him, though, as well, because, like, it's all up to him to escape. It's just the backline that's there to help him, and that's not too much help. So hopefully in this pick and ban stage, we can see Solo or Troll goes to something more traditional. See layers, stick on those assassins. I think the Nemesis has been good. The objective DPS kind of gods like Mercury, Bakasura, and stuff like that will be effective, and he's great at them. But yeah, I would like to see the shift in the solo lane. Only Warriors already banning away the Ula. AMC on the other side banned away, because I think those are the two, in my opinion, again, using my opinions, the strongest mid lane ability hunters, which I think are really great in this meta, where hunters are great, double physical is great. I don't want to see 3 of them.
And we've been seeing AMC banned out a lot here, 24% ban rate over the entire tournament. I do want to point out the Daji here, banned in 39% of games, picked up maybe, I think, twice so far in the event. I'm really interested to see what has necessarily made Daji such a high priority pick, and potentially with Ymir and Umoja being the 2 bans here in the second slot, and Mercury being this one here, potentially we could see the Daji in this game.
Perhaps, yeah. I mean, there
yeah, well,
it's gone again, so
screw
you
me, I guess.
But clearly it is a pick that these teams are all respecting. They are banning it quite often, so it's something that must be prevalent behind the scenes. We haven't seen it too much in this tournament, but what we have seen a lot of is these Jingwei first picks, and they've seen some success, seen some not so great games, but always, even on the losing team, this Jingwei seems to be doing consistently good. So a safe pickup. You're not identifying your draft too early. You just have this Jingwei who can slot into any team comp at this stage of the meta.
And that's a 100% pick or ban rate for Jingwei so far in this tournament. And yeah, we've absolutely seen it. 63% wins over 16 games. This is a character who has been incredibly instrumental in a lot of these engagements. And we've seen already the potential from the Oni Warriors to use this Jingwei very effectively. This is a squad that is definitely able to do that. And, well, the Titans looking to potentially run this one back. So far, the Kepri and Cherno logged in first.
And I think that's what the Warriors had the last game as well in this scenario. So, you know, seeing some respect for the enemy team, saying, you know what, we can play these gods too. They're clearly effective. But Oni Warriors getting the cleaner again. I think that's the big thing. We saw Titans hover it, so Solo or Troll was at least thinking about the option. But instead, it goes the way of the Warriors again, and Artemis again. You know, they're just going to pull out kind of the same team comp. Don't fix what ain't broke.
Yeah, and you know, I was concerned about the Artemis mid. You know, I think it's it's a very unsafe pick to go into this mid lane. I think picking it up this early might tempt the scales a little bit, but the Titans so far, we could just see a salty run back here, Ron.
We could, honestly. I think the Nemesis is a good pick. It's great into what they have. I think it's decent into cleaner as well, and just a good pick overall for this meta. The one adjustment, I keep saying it over and over again, that I want to see Titans make is just move away from these hunters in the solo lane. So far, they've already got the Kepri, which is the Prot Shred. They've got the Nemesis, which is the Prot Shred, so they could end up doing it again, but it hasn't worked out for them so far, so we'll see if they change it.
Hubwa going to be the next ban here, away from the Tartarus Titans. Clearly, they thought Cuvo Fred was an issue in that last game, so they're going to keep that one off the board for now. The Oni Warriors, see, here's the thing about how I don't think the Warriors necessarily need to worry about anything that the Titans brought to the table last time around. The last 2 picks for them last game were what, Apollo and Hachiman? I'm not sure either of those are an issue.
No, but that's also puts question marks in their mind. Like, okay, if Titans didn't like that, then they could pick anything. So we kind of just have to be prepared to see what they're going to pull out, because they're going to reach deeper into their god pools this time. Oni Warriors have to pick a basic team comp that they will be happy with, matched up into most enemy team comps. And the Hebo banned away means they won't get the Hebo again. Generally, that's seen as a good matchup against the Nemesis because of the slow immunity and the ability to knock away her shield. And generally matches up with how she scales as well.
Kabrakan and Baron Samity are going to be the last 2 bans here, and we've got this last block of picks, and this is where it's going to change for the Titans if it's going to change at all. Is it going to be the Apollo again? Are we going to see something else? I really, really want there to be a change here from the Tartarus Titans.
Yeah, I suppose we'll see. I want it as well. They have the prot shred, so they could go equally heavily physical. I'm just hoping not to see the 3 hunters. I'm okay with seeing an assassin solo so they can get in there and threaten this Artemis, but not a hunter. I didn't see any like effective Apollo diving from the last game, for example. This game, they've got the Khepri, and they may just run it back.
There it is, locked in again, and I'm not sure that this is the play. The Tartarus Titans, they clearly have a plan for the Apollo. That's the best thing that we can say about this draft, right? Clearly there is thought being put into it. They forced the Warriors away from the Habwa. Potentially they thought that was the issue, but they do leave the Hunbats open. And this is what we were concerned about from the Oni Warriors last time. This is what we highlighted, saying the Hunbats would be a really big pickup for them this time around. And Nox is being hovered here, but even then, I'm not sure this is the issue point.
Let the light be the judge.
Well, again, they're going back to their game 1 of the day draft, so they are going all of the auto attack damage, you know, and the prot shred with their Khepri and the Nemesis. We have to respect that they have an idea. They deeply believe in it, despite these losses. They must be blaming something else in these games, like team fights aren't going their ways, which I could point out a couple reasons why they might not be with their draft. But you know, they have reason to believe it. I think they're going to struggle though if they don't get to an early lead. I guess Oloran has a decent teamfight ultimate, but up against the Humbats, a Geb, an Artemis, and a safe Jingwei and Cleaner doing a lot of poke damage, teamfights, in my opinion, not at all in their advantage. The early game maybe, but that is a small window to win the game in.
Yeah, and I'm curious even as to the frontline selection here from the Tartarus Titans. If they knew they wanted to draft into 4 auto-attack based characters, they could have gone for the Fafnir even and really doubled down on that idea to really identify this comp as we are going to burn down an objective within a second.
Yeah, but again, we've just got the Warriors on their side thinking that they're confident in their style of play, similar to the Kings where they just want to get to team fights. You know, I don't need to kind of counter your draft. I'm just going to play what I think is meta, what is good in this patch, and that's what we said coming into last week. Where the team to win this tournament will be the first team to essentially break the game, first team to find out what is best by far in this current meta. And I think, you know, Hex Mambo did it decently well, even though they didn't qualify. I think Kings have done a great job so far. I think other double hunter teams have done well, and I think Oni Warriors will do equally well this game as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, the worst part of Oni Hunter's draft last game was arguably the Habwa.
Sure.
Right? I think we can make that argument. And now they've got Humbats, which we've seen perform phenomenally so far in this tournament, especially in this situation that the Titans are in. They don't have a whole lot of CCI in this, you know, in this draft. You know, Khepri has a cleanse on his ult, but it's a one-time cleanse. Nemesis doesn't have CC immunity. I don't believe Oloran has CCI when using his ult.
Correct.
So it's only Apollo and Chernobog who are able to use that. Everyone else has to rely on those beads to try and get away from Humbats. There's not a Geb shield that they can use for it. There is very minimal cleanse potential from this roster. I think they're really going to struggle. And that's against the Humbats.
That's right. Yeah, that's up. Humbats, Geb alters as well. You know, Artemis ult coming through, and then all the time you're getting poked by this Jingwei and Cleaner as well. So it's certainly something you're going to struggle with. I think their win conditions in the early game are snowballing some early fights, getting some pressure in these hunter lanes where they can eventually snowball into some objectives, and then they need to be getting a Fire Giant relatively early, but even then it is difficult to get towers and phoenixes when you don't have enough frontline for these hunters. So they're up against a big challenge in the Warriors here. We'll see if they can do it.
Running it back, the Tartarus Titans have to find this one or get knocked out.
It's gonna be a big game 2 for these two teams, especially for the Tartarus Titans, as highlighted by Blazy at the end there. Loss here, and the Titans go home. If the Titans can find a win, they drag us to a game 3, and the Oni Warriors will then have to worry about potentially facing elimination. It's J-Mac and Trelly back in game number 2 of the set. And a little bit of differences in this draft, namely with Cuvo going into a new god, or I should say being forced to play a new god. Otherwise, it would have been a full salty run back by the Warriors. How do you feel about the Hunbats in this draft?
Oh, the Hunbats. Yeah, no, I like the Hunbats. I was going to say a few things about the Tartarus Titans draft, but the Hunbats, I got no problems with that. I think it's great. It's you have beads burners with the Geb and the Caledonian Boar from Tusky, so you have a few different options. I like how I said from Tusky and not Artemis. I've decided that Tusky's the god.
Tusky is the god.
Right.
That is true. It's just like Scotty and Calder, Argus and Hera. The pets are the gods.
Right. Okay. So whenever Tusky decides to unleash himself, there'll be some good beads burners here. So I have no problems with this Hunbats. What I do have a bit of an issue with is I just can't imagine that Chernobog has a good time. I mean, last game we saw what, a 4-level deficit in favor of Nika on the Kleena against Apollo, and he even got first blood. SOT got first blood. This seems like just worse pressure, quicker rotations, no doubt, but worse pressure. I have to imagine. So we'll have to see how this lane goes. Without any early ganks, maybe the Aegis is now not going to be the option. So the beads could be the difference maker, right? You're a little bit safer in that lane. You have some, ways to survive the cataclysm that kept coming your way whenever Neomod would rotate over. So, again, I think Ro touched on it pretty well. The Tartarus Titans are obviously have some stock in this draft. They are pretty confident in their strategy here. Let's see how it goes game 2.
They're going to need to pull out all the stops here in game number 2 in order to try and drag this one out to a 3rd game set. Maybe show us exactly why this draft seems to be so popular. This triple hunter style, at least this time with a magical hunter in Paul on the Yola run. Back on the Yola run again, I must highlight. Played it in their matchup earlier on. Didn't find the most success. We didn't really see any major waves come from Paul and this god in that first game.
Yeah, I think Oleron, with having one of the best ultimates in the game, you want to make sure those Sanctified Fields are hitting exactly what you want, or you have to back off, right? If you're not making use out of that ultimate, what else is Oleron really going to bring to the team fight unless you have overwhelming frontline, which right now, they clearly do not. I mean, SOT is on an ADC, so you really have to rely on Aurora being all of your setup. If you're not making use out of that Sanctified Field, you essentially have to back off there. I mean, if they are running at you, Oleron's not going to have such a great time. He doesn't really appreciate tanky targets near him at any moment. So I think as long as he's holding onto that ultimate and using it effectively, as he will be stealing away this red buff here from Dardes, it's going to get him off to a good start.
Dardes not going to be able to get in to secure that one, so a successful invade by the Tartarus Titans will make sure that the red buff gets stripped away from the mid laner. And even a purple buff too. We do see, or we're at least taking the small harpy, or not the small, I can't call them the small harpies, the small, what are those, manticores?
I actually don't know what the minis are.
I'm pretty sure those are just the manticores. They're just smaller versions of it. Or Chimera, maybe? Chimera might be the proper one?
Yeah, they've got like they have like Cerberus's little snake tail. I couldn't tell you. I honestly don't know the technical term for what the purple buff small boys are.
Well, you know what? They'll just be the small boys.
I just call them the minis no matter what it is. As long as it isn't the actual buff holder, they're minis to me.
True point. Fair point on that one, Shirley. The Oni Warriors down a little bit in gold as the Tartarus Titans able to pick up about a 600 lead early off. Same with the XP, climbing about that same rate. A little bit more so back and forth when it comes to that experience department. Nobody, well, most of that coming, I should say, from Neomod being down level 3. Soul Laners have hit 5, and I'm waiting for Cuvo Fred to hit that level 5. This Hunbats, it really feels that that's where his time to shine is in his games.
I've seen Dardes hit every single trap on the layers. I do not think this man has missed one of these traps, and there's no CC. It's just he's just setting them down right on top of where he's walking. So wherever I'm watching Dardes, I'm expecting to see some CC, some sort of beads going down. So then Cuvo can come in after the fact and say, hey, I've got a blink, fear no evil. We're ready for this whenever we need to. Obviously, Layers doesn't have beads, so going to be a great target nonetheless. Just going to have to watch out whenever you are around this Artemis in that mid lane. But looking at these matchups, I imagine Cuvo will be looking to get aggressive. He has some pretty free targets here. There are a few members that don't have the beads in Layers, obviously, and whenever you have so many CC ultimates where you can just get beads down effectively, Cuvo can just be the regank. You're like, hey, you guys go in, I'll come in after the fact. We have a free kill potential, right?
Yeah, I mean, seeing the blink on Layers feels like he's almost falling into the same trap he did in game number 1, where once Neil got active around the middle of the map, finds one Cataclysm against Layers, and that sets up for pretty much an instant turnaround kill right after. Do you think that the Oni Warriors with Neil need to repeat that same process, go aggressive again on Layers and really punish him for that?
I don't think you have to go aggressive on Layers. You essentially just have to wait, because he'll come to you. He has to get active if he wants to, get online and get these hunters online. So whenever he is close by like this, you should be able to. But that's only a level 4 Neomod.
Yeah, no ultimate for Neomod. Sanctified Field will slow him down. The knockup is good. One more joins the party, and it's Paul to kick it off first. First blood goes to the Tartarus Titans. And no reinitiation from the Oni Warriors. They've used everything they had.
Yeah, SOT came all the way over here, and it looks like Nika made the rotation as well, but they will just have to go back over. I don't think a gold free pull will be the option. Again, if that was a level 5 Geb, could have been a nice opportunity to CC layers, but at only level 4, super slow, doesn't have beads available, no way that Sanctified Field wasn't resulting in a kill. And now, Paul gets off to a great start. And the Oleron being 1-0, having a level lead in mid, is going to get you off to a great old time. Looks like possibly a Ring of Hecate start. Could be a few different options if you wanted to go the Demonic Grip and you wanted to get some pen online early, or just a Telekind's Ring if you're trying to absolutely do a fair bit of damage. It's one of those items that starts shredding later when you get more attack speed to proc it more damage, but it really depends. It looks like the Ring of Hecate will be the option.
Tartarus will go back to base. That should be a full Transcendence for him. It will be indeed. So now these mid laners have finally gotten that first big item online. In this solo lane, game number 1, SOT kind of got to have a little bit of fun in the early game. Kind of continued to keep it even. Got to keep it even. That's the phrase I was looking for, but I combined like all the words into one. Somehow, I don't know how I was able to miraculously do that. This game, kind of sitting the same. SOT gets to be a little bit more active, maybe a little bit quicker with that ult. Neil Ma tries to get active with his ult, but whiffs that Cataclysm, and because of that, should go down here unless he can get some good backup from Cubo and Nika. Good Fear No Evil will at least keep Cubo there, but Neil Ma is going to go down. It will be SOT picking up the kill.
Man, that was a slow burn. That was hard to watch. That was just Neil blinking in, missing ult completely, and then just slow. Can I help? No. Wait, I'll drop Fear No Evil. Maybe I can help? No, not quite. And then, and finally, that will be the return kill. So now SOT has a kill as well in that lane. We'll be helping up on those Devo stacks. We're looking at a fair lead right now in favor of the Tartarus Titans. So completely a different start. I mean, not completely different. They were off to a good start as well last game, but now spreading the love a little bit. About the same gold lead. It was just the XP last game that was looking in the Oni Warriors' favor. This time, both the XP and the gold, as the Tartarus Titans have been on point with these buff invades. The red buff they've been on top of. Then they go rotate right over, make sure Vote can't get that purple buff as well. They've been very clutch on these invades, making sure they're ready for these timers.
Neilmod cannot save that red buff from being stolen yet again. And you can see where that XP differential is. It's in the mid 3v3, where it's been most active across the map, at least for the Tartarus Titans. Paul, Layers, and Aurora all have a 1-level lead up there against their opponents. And you can see that reflected in these team fights. You can see maybe a bit of miscommunication more than anything. The Oni Warriors don't necessarily seem to be on the same point right now in this early game.
Yeah, I just don't think the Oni Warriors really want to force anything. Again, whenever the beads are down, they can look to get aggressive. Right now, only SOT's beads are down, and Cubo has not been on that right side of the map very much. He's been sitting around mid, playing around Dardes. They're both stacking Transcendence. They're trying to get their power spikes online, and then obviously Neomon with the Blink Cataclysm. So I think that was their one opportunity to really find a CC chain, and they didn't get it, so now they just want to go back to farming. They aren't afraid to fight. They just don't have the opportunity to force anything unless, of course, it is onto this Nemesis. And since it didn't work out the first time, they're just going to be going back to the farm game.
Yeah, it's going to be about 20 seconds till Neil's Blink is back up. That won't stop him from getting aggressive alongside Cubo Fred. Aurora here will find the pull up against Neil Ma. Cubo holding on to his ultimate, same as Neil. Not going to let those ones fly just yet. It'll be a disengage by the Warriors, though we did see some group up towards this right, maybe trying to get aggressive on SOT.
Yeah, possibly. He still has about 37 seconds on the beads, and I imagine the timer is known throughout the Oni Warriors right now. They're probably calling it out. If you want to go for it, right after this blue buff would be the time. Cubo is here. He has Blink available, but again, only has about 8 stacks on that Transcendence, so if they want to do this, they have to play this perfectly. And it looks like Cubo will be trying to hide in the totem here and look for a gank on right.
Does go in. Fear No Evil is good against SOT. Can he get into the sky in time? The answer is no. Finally, the Oni Warriors are able to put themselves on the board, and that one will go over to Cubo Fred.
Yeah, 10 seconds. He could have just sat at tower, but he really wanted to clear that wave and did not expect the Fear No Evil, but right on cue. Here's Layers at that red buff timer right when it spawns. This is going to start to add up here. Obviously right now, Dartarus is only a level behind, but every single one of these red buffs have been going the way of the Tartarus Titans, and like clockwork, purple buff will be on suit next.
Not much chance for Vote to steal this one away unless he can get it with a nice little shot. One good in hand will do so. Vote secures his purple buff and at least thwarts the plans a little bit of the Tartarus Titans, though that still lead does favor the Chaos side team. 2,000 gold up for the Tartarus Titans. XP climbing closer to that 3K mark.
Yeah, if I'm the Oni Warriors, I'm probably waiting for Layers to tank that buff so he can't blink out, and then just blink Cataclysm into the Fear No Evil, just setting up for it. He's gonna be there, you know, but I will say, on top of that, Aurora's always there as well, and he's usually playing zone duty, so they have the vision. They're not just doing this for no reason. They have the vision and they have the map state that they're able to force onto this red buff. Obviously, Vote was able to confirm the purple buff that time, but they just have to try and defend it. Looks like they're going to be going for the Pyromancer, though. They have a good bit of burn here, but Nika slips this one out.
Nika's got to be quick if he wants to steal this one away. Does open up one Veil, won't be enough to get the kill. The Visions is blocked, and Nika will not be able to get into the wall just yet. Finally, will find a path in, but it does cost him his beads to do so. Pyromancer goes over to the Tartarus Titans, and what's the response from the Oni Warriors? Not a whole lot. They can't pull that Gold Fury just yet. Maybe they can try and bait a Titan in.
Yes, Cyclone Spin has a level 12 lead to Vote's 10 right now, which is going to be pretty massive once you want to start fighting with your double relics. If you do want to take these 1v1s, it's going to start to hurt. Obviously, Vote ticks over to level 11, but still, it's going to be a fair XP lead in favor for the Tartarus Titans, especially in duo lane. If Cyclone's able to start rotating earlier on, it's going to just spell disaster. Already has the Wind Demon online. They have a fair bit of Shred. It looks like SOT's been going more so the kin size build, so they have HP Shred as well. On top of that, they're diversifying their damage about as well as you can, and it looks like Aurora is still worried about those auto attackers going for the Sovereignty and the Witchblade, so their team fight presence is going to be nuts.
Will Dardes get a red buff? Will Layers make it out? The answer to the second is yes for now. So the Scarab's Blessing out of Aurora gets the jungler away. And because the answer was yes, can Layers make it out? The answer for the first question as well will be yes. Dardes finally will pick up a red buff after what, like 4 invades by the Titans?
Yeah, you think they can hear me? I think they did. I mean, not exactly what I said, but they did wait for Layers of that red buff and said, hey, he's got Blink and we've got CC, but Aurora was able to save him that time. But at the very least, you got your red buff, and that's what you're fighting over, right? You want that XP and your farm. Of course, Dardes was a little far away, and he didn't even get it, but at least you're confirming it for your team nonetheless. Fear No Evil is down, so I don't think Cuba wants to take this. He will jump away and blink to make sure he's out of there.
Neil's going to go down as it's all 5 of the Titans surrounding the rock. And Neil falls down to Layers. 3 kills up for the Titans, and the Gold Fury started up. Vote and Cuba are here. Fear No Evil is down. Vote's ultimate is still there, and a Sanctified Field by Paul will more than guarantee that the Titans can grab the Gold Fury.
Yeah, that one's absolutely free. There's really no ult available that's going to steal that away. Vote doesn't even want to get close, and I think Paul is just going the extra mile, saying, I'm going to put down the slow motion Sanctified Field in all areas. No one is going to get even close to this, and Nika said, I'll go for the tower on the right side. Like, I do not want to follow this rotation. Chernobog will get there before me every single time, and I'm just going to get farm on the right side of the map and try and make the best out of a bad situation now. We're looking at about a 3K gold lead in favor of the Tartarus Titans. And where are they going to push that lead right now? It looks like still focusing a little bit on trying to get SOT back ahead. Seeing a little bit of pressure on this right side because Nika is the only one with a level lead right now. He's level 14 to his 13, and that's sort of what just happens when you have a global hunter like Chernobyl rotating over to make sure these fights go your way.
So in the case here for the Oni Warriors, you know, falling behind in these early team fights, not really able to confirm too many kills, mostly using their stuff defensively. I mean, where's the path back for the Oni Warriors? I mean, I know we're only 13 minutes in the game, but the Titans have already been picking out themselves a pretty nice lead. I mean, where do the Warriors find their path back in?
Yeah, I would say you're not too worried right now if you're the Warriors. This is not a, like, we need to do something right now, we're going to fall too far behind sort of deal. Dardes is my biggest concern because obviously he hasn't been getting too much farm, and Layers is here once again trying to go for this red buff. Neoma, another Cataclysm whiffed.
Fear No Evil used. Layers gets the Scarab's Blessing ultimate plus his own shield to give him a lot of extra defense to find his way out. So another red buff, at least secured for Dardes. That way he can be a happy hunter. Look at a very curious third item start by Cubo. Fred, that's why with my little eyes, a shuriken.
Yeah, I think he's going to be going for him. Remember when Honebats used to actually get passive crit and crit bots was the right way to go about things? Not anymore. That is not what the passive does. But still, crit Honebats could be a fun time, just going for the extra attack speed from Wind Demon. And he looks like he is actually going to teleport in here.
Does go in, takes a lot of damage and CC through, ends up beating the ultimate from Layers, but Tusky comes on out, finds some good CC, and that will be the immediate disengage by the Oni Warriors. Backed off the aggression of of Cuvo Fred.
Yeah, and it looks like Cyclone Spin was maybe making the rotation over, whereas Vote was just going to go back. So would have had one ADC on your side if you're the Tartarus Titans, and probably could have had the man advantage as well, but not too eager to fight that one. It wasn't the best opportunity, and of course, if Cuvo doesn't have ult, I don't imagine he's trying to force anything either. So neither one of these teams really comfortable fighting over nothing in this mid lane. There is a Pyromancer spawning shortly, and if you're the Oni Warriors, that could be a great answer back into this game. On the other side, the Tartarus Titans do not want the Oni Warriors getting back into this game, so a pick before that will be pretty disastrous. I think they're pretty smart to just back off and say we don't have to really force anything just yet.
Neil and Dardes need to back away quickly. Neil does find 2 with the ultimate and knock up onto Layers, and the damage in from Dardes and Mika will be enough to take them down. It's a double kill for Dardes as both Layers and Aurora fall down. Paul still holding on to the Sanctified Field. How long will he be able to hold it out? Finally throws that one back in. A beads by Dardes, and the autos will fire through but not connect.
Would you believe that Aurora and Layers had beads that whole time and still have the beads available? As Nika's trying to dive Paul here, not going to be able to. And it looks like SOT's ulting over to try and chase this one down as well. Nika does have to use the beads here, but a few more autos should be able to clean this up, and he gets it.
SOT manages to at least grab one, but they lose the tier 1 tower in the mid lane, and that will shore up that XP difference at the very least. Now only 1,200 from what was that 3K mark. Gold still sitting about that same point there, that 3,000 up for the Titans. So not a whole lot gained as far as the gold was concerned, but that XP very important for the Warriors.
Yeah, I just don't see why Aurora didn't beads and then Scarab's Blessing at least onto Layers there. It just seemed like maybe they were like, we're fine here, or they're like, there's no way we're getting out. Whoa. This is the earliest Fire Giant call we have seen this tournament. The Tartarus Titans are shredding through it pretty quick. Cuvo doesn't have ult here.
It's a very ambitious fire. Can the Tartarus Titans pull it out? Neil gets rooted in place, and the answer is no, they will retreat out as soon as Neil Maw rotates over. Cataclysm was still down, so Neil would have really only had the chance to steal it if you could find maybe a blink shockwave to grab that one away.
I think at that point Neil just wanted to shockwave all of them and say, hey, the Fire Giant's going to do more than me. I'm just going to be an annoying like body sponge and say I'm going to soak up all the damage I can, and hopefully Fire Giant deals with you because I can't stop this. Oni Fury is spawning pretty shortly as well, and I imagine that's where the Tartarus Titans should be turning their attention. We saw the Fire Giant call, and they have a fair bit of shred. Looking at their builds, every single one of these auto attackers are able to do a fair bit of damage to that Fire Giant. I think that's why that call was even made, saying, hey, if only one person shows up, we go for the 50-50. Okay, now 2 people here. Maybe we go for it. And then at that point, they're like, no, we got to call off. We have a fair bit of auto attack damage. Cuvo blinks in.
Paul use the beats quickly. Layers responds with an ultimate. Needs of a lot of healing from the damage thrown out by these 2. Now with SOT joining the fray, Dardes rooted out, and Dardes will go down to one more shot from SOT. Neil Maw can only sit back and watch as his carry goes down. And Neil will roll himself on out back to the safety of the tier 1.
And it looks like the Oni Fury will be getting looked at here. Vote is going to try and stop a little bit of aggression and just get some poke if possible. There is a fair bit of steal potential because Nika has made the rotation in, and he's very far up.
Oh, Nika half HP, can't get into the wall. The passive kicks in, and Paul is able to kick him down. Another one away from the Oni Warriors means the Tartarus Titans now have free reign on this map. It seems their sights are set back towards the fire.
Yeah, they don't care about that goal. If you're Aurora, it might have been left a little bit behind, but not too worried. It looks like the team will turn around and try and help him out here.
No, Neil gets pulled in, baited, and probably dead right on after. SOT or Cyclone crashed into the back line, I should say, to hold out Cuvo. Fred, airstrike is out. Paul takes down Cuvo, and it's now only Vote left to defend. Dardes respawning, but that is a tall task for this Artemis.
J-Mac, these comps are so similar for the Tartarus Titans and, the Oni Warriors, we should say. And what a different game we're getting to witness here. SOT has had a completely different performance. 3-1 actually up in XP. I don't think anyone from the Oni Warriors will be getting here anytime soon. So the Fire Giant will go the way of the Tartarus Titans. All 5 able to pick this one up as Aurora is just solo invading a red buff and just trying to be annoying. No one is allowed to pick this up. There's no one here, by the way. This is just Aurora. Obviously, they're on the way, and they have global presence. So SOT, once that ult is up, could make it over here in a little bit of time if need be. But Aurora is just completely confident that his team has his back and will. Vote gets the buff, actually, so not steal that one away. Either way, the Fury will go down, and the Tartarus Titans have completely flipped this game. Not even flipped it. They've had pressure this whole time. I'm just referring to the fact that this is a very similar comp to last game and a completely flip of how this game is opted to go.
And then a nosedive in the XP and gold that now shoots back over toward the Tartarus Titans. A 7,000 in both regards that the Titans have up. Now the Oni Warriors, having lost gold, having lost Fire Giant with no objectives left for them to defend. Where do the Tartarus Titans now, Trelly, decide to put this pressure? Where do they strike first?
I think the Tartarus Titans can just run it down. At the moment, they have a Trebuchet pushing down and left, and it looks like the Oni Warriors are going to try and set something up here. Roar is the only one taking the bait, so they will have to back off. I don't think that was the target they were looking for. Maybe just hoping that one of these lone ADCs would push up a little bit too far. Either way, they can just run it down left at this point. They're able to split the map very effectively because SOT is in the right side of the map. Anytime he wants, he could pull someone over and then just use his ultimate to go join the fight on the left, and now the fight's completely split. Cyclone Spin can do the same thing. That is really the strength of this comp. If you get to this point, you have these two global ADCs that you can use to split the presence. Right now, I think the Tartarus Titans are doing exactly what they need to. Far left and far right. Split up the Oni Warriors.
Roar misses the dash, but SOT comes right back into the fray. 3 versus 4 on the left side of the map now. Both rejoining and regrouping with the entirety of the Oni Warriors team. The Tartarus Titans will just take their prize of the 2 left towers and now make their way over towards mid. There were all 6 towers standing on the map before this Fire Giant goes down. Charlie, that's a lot of gold that the Tartarus Titans can pick up for free here.
Oh yeah, and the Trebuchet got a shot down, so that left Phoenix got chunked, absolutely destroyed. Actually, it wasn't that much. It will be healing. Either way, I think it will start to get annoying if they did decide to go for that left side Phoenix, but there's still a right tier 2 tower that they do want to get first. We are seeing a few members of the Tartarus Titans trick over to level 20 here, so they have the goal to upgrade these starters, but do they want to continue pushing? Only about a minute 30 left on FG, and right now Cyclone Spin is really split.
Can he make it up into the chariot? Yes, he will. Not enough crit damage coming out from Dardas, and not enough damage in general from Cuvo Fred.
He's got crit damage too.
Yeah, that's true. He does have crit damage. I completely forgot about the fact that he picked up a Shuriken, but it's not the Wind Demon. It's actually a Shadow Steel picked up.
Yeah, I think there's a fair bit of healing on every single member of the Tartarus Titans, and the fact that you have these ADCs that are going to be building Lifesteal, and Paul, SOT, Cyclone Spin, and then the shield healing from layers is going to be annoying. And of course, Paul also just has the third ability that's going to heal up his whole team. So I think the anti-heal Shuriken could provide some sort of pressure, and the stats are just pretty solid for Hoonbats. If you do get a Fear No Evil off, you want to be hitting as quickly as possible, proccing those Hydra's procs, and it looks like a Deathbringer should be coming along as well. So Cubo Fred just trying to maximize that damage. Going to be a smart bet, I think.
We'll see if he can make use of that crit damage to come through in a team fight, but he's down 3 levels to layers. Same for Dardas, 3 under Paul, who's hit level 20. He's gone back and picked up his starter item to fully upgrade it. Paul sitting 3 full rings in. Now, last time that he played the Aloran, he did pick up the 4th ring. We'll see if he does that, or maybe if he even gets the opportunity to do so, because Cubo Fred is going to have to use everything he's got to get out, and even more than that. So Troll will dive right into the back line and pick up the jungler. Neil should get rooted out here in a Sanctified Field. Will cut off the path. It's a double kill for SOT. And the Tartarus Titans can surge up the mid.
And it looks like Fire Giant buff has worn off. They're just fighting here just for the sake of it. Finally, these Phoenixes will go down, but this wasn't even with the FG buff. They just had enough pressure that they were able to do this. Cuvo a little bit too far up without ultimate, and now left bird and mid will go the way of the Tartarus Titans. I honestly expected them to try and go for a little bit more, see if they could get some relics down or at least some ultimates, but this is definitely the smarter call. If you do get a few picks here, you probably are looking at losing a possible FG. They are just going to back off, invade the red buff, and then go for the reset. Now there's 2 Phoenixes down. It's going to be very difficult for the Oni Warriors to step anywhere out of their Phoenix land. They can't really defend this Fire Giant now. They've split the map too much.
I mean, just from going back and stealing everything out of the jungle that the Titans can. I mean, this goes beyond rubbing salt in the wound. This is like putting a cut on their arm and sticking their arm in the Dead Sea at this point.
Oh man!
I mean, it is a brutal
Some
win.
Lemon juice.
God, even worse. Let's just keep adding even more. That would be so bad to go up against here, because the Tartarus Titans, I mean, they have a 16,000 gold lead. That's one of the largest gold leads that we've seen this tournament thus far. And Trelly, it's only 24 minutes in the game. If we see leads like this, we're normally at like the 35, 40-minute mark.
Yeah, we're looking at EFG timer at that point, but right now, still 6 minutes off from that EFG. I think the Tartarus Titans are playing this as smart as you can. They're not going to pull this just yet because they see, wait, there's 5 warriors here, and there's fire minions in left and mid. We don't have to pull this just yet. Now they are going to go for it, and it looks like Cubo's going to be able to make the rotation, but this is going so fast.
Fire Giant doesn't even stand a chance. As soon as Neil gets in there, his ultimate will only delay his own death. SOT picks up yet another kill for himself, and a dive in aggressively. Fear no Evil to try and hold him back, but now it's Cyclone diving into the back line alongside his other Hunter. It's a double for SOT and one for Layers. Now only Cubo and Mika left standing up against the Tartarus Titans. Layers will immune out most of that damage through, and the Tartarus Titans can continue their push up the right side of the map. Who even cares about the Phoenix? They can go straight for these kills. Aurora diving in, Mika slowing them down as much as possible. But with the minions up into the throne room, the Tartarus Titans will take down Cubo Fred. The Tartarus Titans will take us to a game number 3, and Nika can only sit back and watch as it happens.
3 ADCs burning through that FG, burning through that Titan so effectively. SOT was 8-1, a completely different flip again from that Apollo solo game we saw last time. It really just seemed like they had the confidence in this draft, they just weren't able to execute. Once they found their rhythm, they were able to split the map so well with these global ultimates. You don't expect the Chernobog to fly in when you're on the left side of the map. You don't expect this Chariot to come in when you're running away from the Fire Giant. It just didn't seem like the Tartarus Titans had any breaks. They were just ready to go.
I mean, does it feel like the difference in the jungle was kind of a makeup here? You know, you go from the Hobwa to the Hunt Bats, adding another physical, or do you think that also that swap of the Hunters was really what made the big difference?
I think the Hunter swap seemed to be it. I mean, SOT looked a lot better, for me personally, on the Chernobog.
Well, we'll see if the Tartarus Titans can get their reverse sweep over the Oni Warriors, or will the Oni Warriors take it out? Let's find out in game number 3.
It worked out for the Tartarus Titans this time. 3 Hunters finds 1 out of 3, and now they find themselves tied 1-1 up against the Oni Warriors. The next game is all important. We are back to a best-of-1 situation for all intents and purposes here, and the next team to lose will be out of the tournament now for the rest of the 2 weeks.
So I'll say it, I was wrong. I'll just put
We
it
were
out
both
there.
wrong.
Yeah,
I'll share
sure.
this burden
Thank
with
you,
you.
thank you. And I'm sure some of chat that are making fun of me now, some of you were wrong as well. It worked. The Triple Hunter worked. They were able to find the picks on Nilmar. They were able to force these objectives. They'll have the enemy team, the Warriors, rotate into these objectives and just pick them out every time they came in. So it was like a conveyor belt of kills for them, and they were able to build up a lead. Chernobog, you know, more effective than Apollo. I think Apollo can rotate quite a bit as well, but Chernobog able to rotate and find these kills. On Nika, for example, a big rotation here to the mid lane, and able to just get a lot more done than what he was able to do on the Apollo. I think in the Apollo, he was more just pushing towers than anything else, whereas on Chernobog, he was able to affect these team fights finally.
It really did feel that way, yeah. Sot seemingly way more willing to get on these aggressive rotations on the Chernobog. Maybe it's just to do with the speed of the ultimate
Much quicker,
from
yeah.
Cherno. You also get that slow applied, and while, yeah, you're doing a lot less damage with the ultimate than you would on Apollo, you still get a lot more of these opportunities to go in, and you know, they still pick up the Apollo. They give it to Cyclone Spin this time around, and it looks a lot better than it did in the solo lane. So overall, I think maybe the fix for Oni Warriors' comp was just to rejig these ADCs and where they were going to go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm impressed by the double down, really. Well, it's the triple down. It was the third time.
It really was the triple down.
It was the third time they've run this, and you know, it worked out a lot better this time. So now we get to see, well, I get humbled, and we get to see why they really believed in this so hard. You know, they lost twice with it and still went back to it a third time, so you have to respect that. This time, it worked out a lot better. They were able to find the early kills, but again, I think it is crucial that they do find those early kills, and they can snowball the game. In my opinion, I think if Warriors played a little bit more like Kings played, which is more disciplined in the early game, you don't mind losing a couple of objectives. You can give up a little bit because you know your late game team fight prowess and that team comp will make up for your deficit of gold. But instead, Warriors kind of walk in. They contest these objectives, they contest these jungle buffs, and they pay with their lives. And in the end, what would have been a small deficit from those objectives turns into much more. And this triple Hunter comp is able to do a Fire Giant relatively early into the game. I think they were starting it at 16 minutes just after they had lost the team fight, but then finally got an objective at the Fire Giant at 18 minutes. So pretty early on for this meta for a Fire Giant to be killed.
Well, we'll have to see how the Oni Warriors are going to adjust their bans, and if Titans, if any, changes are going to be made to the Titans comp. And straight away, the Oleron taken off the board. I agree, out of those 3 Hunters, probably the Sanctified Field, the biggest impact. We saw it used there really effectively in these fights by the Titans, so no complaints here taking away the Oleron. I still personally think that the magical ADCs aren't necessarily quite as effective in terms of their damage.
Yeah, I see Warriors' point, though. You know, when they went in to contest some of those objectives, Paul would just ult, and then there's no way Warriors can contest those objectives that those Hunters are DPSing. So it was able to, not through damage, it was able to secure these objectives not through damage, but just zoning out the enemy team so they're able to build that gold lead. So they'll take away the Oleron, and they'll feel more comfortable going into these team fights. They take away the Ulur again, the AMC is on the other side, the Ymir again. So much the same in that regard, but obviously the only Warriors deciding they don't want to be up against the Oleron this time around.
The Ymir notably taken away here from the Titans. They don't want to deal with that, nor do the Oni Warriors want to deal with this Capri. That's going to be 2 targeted bans away from the Tartarus Titans this time around. But this does open the door to something that I suggested last time, which is if the Titans do want to run into this 4 auto-attack based comp, we could look potentially towards the Fafnir, something to really elevate and double, even quadruple down on that pressure.
Yeah, I think Capri fit well with what they wanted to do because we saw the Chernobog flying in, followed up by the Apollo flying in, and you had those 2 backlines diving into the enemy backline with a lot of confidence because they had the Capri ult. Oni Warriors don't want to deal with those dives coming in again, so they take away the Chernobog themselves. That is leaving Jingwei open for the Titans, however.
And that's not going to have quite the same effect, even if the Titans do pick it up, but it will serve something of a similar style, right? The Mercury is going to be the run back for the Titans. So already, still maintaining this, so far, it's very early doors, but already maintaining this auto-attack based composition. And the Jingwei will be hovered. I'd be very surprised if they move away from this character. It's been picked or banned nearly every single game.
I think every game.
Yep, nearly every single game. Yep, 40% pick, 60% ban. So that's going to be an easy lock in there for the Tartarus Titans, and already the most different draft we've seen from them all day.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we start to see when we get deeper into these sets, deeper into these tournaments. Teams start adjusting, they change their bans, change their god values. So picking Chernobog over Jingwei, for example. Well, Chernobog is still relatively safe, just like Jingwei, but at least that takes it away from the Titans. So they're similar style for the Oni Warriors, but Titans having one less tool available to them.
And I do think taking the Chernobog away here is maybe the best idea that Warriors had in that first slot. I think it completely dismantles the old composition that Titans wanted to go for. As you said, they were really reliant on having these global ultimates that they could use to pressure. They don't need to ban the Apollo. I don't think Apollo was necessarily a problem in that last game, so the Chernobog, it is. We do get to see the Daji that I highlighted in that last game. That feels really good. Is this what it feels like to be a chair 2 and getting a like an analytic point right?
I guess so. Look, I don't get them often, but Daji and Gab definitely effective in these team fights. So with what in line with what the Warriors have been doing so far in this tournament, and if they have to worry less about their being snowballed on by these dive hunters because they've taken the Chernobog away, then that matches well for what they want to do in the game. Titans, however, we're seeing a shift already because of those gods being taken away. Now they're going towards Baron. I imagine in the solo lane, which is much slower than what the God's solo troll has been playing so far.
But I love this response ban from Titans. The Daji gets picked up by the Warriors, and what is the first thing the Titans do? They take away that Morrigan from Dades. They don't let him play it. They don't want to deal with 2 Daji, and that is a scary, scary thought. So really, really well banned there. I think from the Titans, they really identified what the Warriors were likely to do. We already know and have seen Dades run to this Morrigan today even, so very well picked up by the Titans. Now the Bastet taken off the board, Jing Chen as well, still waiting on this final ban from the Oni Warriors, really needing to think about it, and it will be the Osiris.
The Xing Chen and the Osiris bans are interesting to me. They're almost indicative of a, maybe Oni Warriors are looking towards a double hunter again, so they don't want to have to deal with this anti-AA or anti, backline gods in Xing Chen and Osiris, because they have the cleanse for the Xing Chen ultimate, so Geb a decent matchup there. Daji, doesn't want to deal with these CC immunity gods like Xing Chen and Osiris, so a good ban in that regard. But a cleaner on the other side, I would imagine that pushes Baron towards, I would guess,
mid?
I don't want to say mid. I hope it's support over mid, but yeah, I would imagine support.
That's interesting. I don't believe we've seen Baron outside of the solo lane so far this week. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Not this week, but I think last week we saw Quig was the one that played Baron support, yeah.
Potentially, yeah. That does sound like something that Quig would do. The Nemesis is taken away here, though, by the Oni Warriors.
Solo?
Potentially, yeah. Definitely more likely than the Daji going into the solo lane. But once again, this Oni Warriors composition has some interesting questions to it.
Both teams today with very interesting drafts and their own style of how to play this game. So now, Kumbhakana being relatively effective. I would imagine it is the Baron mid. But yeah, Kumbhakana being effective into this double hunter, being effective into Nemesis. Geb will give him a hard time sometimes, but another CC immune god as well into the Daji. So look, I don't know. If you're going to ask me which team comp is better here, I don't know. They're both playing their own style. Now we see Warriors with more auto-attacking than Titans, so it seems like they're kind of meeting in the middle, and it's a mesh of both. So it's a complete toss-up to me now. Yeah,
no, it really does seem like the Titans finally got their win with their triple hunter comp. They proved it can work.
Yeah, proved me wrong.
Yeah, and now they're going, okay, you know what? We proved it. We don't need to go any further with that. Opting now to go for something a little bit more in line with what we've been seeing the last couple weeks.
Something, yeah, sorry to cut you off, but something interesting from Titans as well is they still have the good objective DPS. The cleaner, double ultimate. Jingwei still great DPS. Mercury obviously great DPS. And then when anybody walks into those objectives, they're getting pulled further in by Baron. They're getting rooted or knocked up by Kumbhakana. So they're relatively easy targets for Mercury, Jingwei, and Cleaner to do all that damage. So maybe a similar style, but completely different gods and a very different look to Titans. But they're still able to play the same play style. So something they're already comfortable with.
And I love the response to the Daji as well. There's a lot of CCI in terms of Titans roster. This is something that I pointed out last game, and it ended up not meaning anything because they still won. But CC immune ults on everyone other than Cleo, and even then she can just walk into a wall if Daji hits her with her ult.
She's quick enough. Yeah.
There's plenty of counterplay to this Daji. So the Titans, I think, have a really strong comp. You know what? You said that you wouldn't be able to answer which of these two
ahead.
comps were stronger, but, you know, remove the names, remove the players. I think on paper, the Titans have a pound-for-pound better composition here.
That's fair. Look, that's yeah. I mean, I still can't rate it. I think I need to see Warriors, you know, abusing some of these beads cooldowns. But again, you said they're going to have to contest with these CC immune ults. But Darji needs to be pulling as much as often. Gev needs to be forcing these beads, and Nemesis needs to be able to find these picks as well. But it's going to be really difficult for Nemesis to find these picks through a Baron peel, through a Kumbhakana peel, especially on slippery gods like Mercury, Jingwei, and Cleaner. So I think let's just see if this Darji and this Gab can get their big ultimates off. If they can, then they can catch them.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, 2 down and 1 to go. One of these two teams is going home after this. It's going to be J-Mac and Trelly back on the cast.
Yeah, thank you so much, Blazy and Rowe. Only one team will continue on into the final match of the day. The other one, well, their tournament life here at Spring Masters will come to a harsh close. It's the Oni Warriors and the Titans up one final time in game number 3. It's J-Mac and Trelly back at it yet again. And Paul taking the clean of mid, something that we saw out of Benny Q and the Valkyries earlier on last week, I'll say, on that Sunday. Now seeing it again here with the Titans.
Yeah, and SOT not going to be taking a Hunter into that solo lane this time around. Just going to be going for the Baron and the first item Warlock Sash. So an interesting draft here for both of these squads. And I think Ro highlighted it pretty well, saying, you know, if Neil and Cubo can really set up for each other very well and make sure these beads are down, I think their team fight is going to be pretty nuts. But if not, if they're not able to get the value out of these ultimates, then it's going to be, I think, very difficult to try and break through this with this Kumbhakana, right? Shutting down a lot of your auto attack damage with, I mean, essentially, I would say 3 auto attackers, and then even with Cubo on this Daji, the Mez is going to shut down all of the 1,000 cuts, and that's a lot of DPS you're losing as well, so very difficult to try and get to the backline when Aurora's here. I think Kumbhakana is going to be, no pun intended, a sleeper pick in this game.
You can't tell me no pun intended, then throw a really good pun at me like that.
Should I have said pun intended?
Always intend your puns, Strelly.
Okay,
if you're with me, you always intend your puns.
All right, well, pun intended then. Kumba is going to be a sleeper pick because I just think he has so much interrupt and the attack speed slow is really going to give value. Not to mention the peel. Anytime someone comes in that you don't want in the fight, just epic uppercut. Throw him out of the fight for a bit.
Now, talk to me a little bit about this Nemesis solo. It's something that we saw SOT pick up. I think it was during the kickoff tournament, which, God, that was, what, like 2 months ago? Good Lord, that was almost 2 months ago, Charlie. Talk to me a little bit about the value that this Nemesis solo can bring.
Well, I think the Golden Blade meta suits it pretty well, which obviously was not being built when SOT was playing that Nemesis solo. But having Golden Blade, when you're up against a Baron, you usually can save your double dash for the pull-in, and then, you know, as long as life of the party isn't connecting, you're going to be fine in lane. But, you know, the healing is going to be a problem. As long as you're, if you can juke out the consistent heals and you're able to just auto-attack the waves down with Golden Blade, you should be getting pressure. And then you should just be getting ahead, right? I mean, Nika wants to get ahead so he's able to hard carry these games for his team. If he has a lead, he can rotate over. You don't have to worry about the global presence, but SOT does have that teleport. That could be a big issue because Nika obviously has the beads. He'll be not quite as quick on those rotations in the later stages of the game. But I think as long as you're able to win lane and stay ahead with this Nemesis, you're going to be just fine.
Cubo's been playing very aggressive on this Daji, going so far as to diving into enemy territory, at least as far as diving into enemy, you know, minion waves to start this one out and put him down to about a quarter. But innovated by the blue buff, blink in via layers to try and stop this one. But Nika will be there to secure the blue buff for him and his team. So the Oni Warriors find a successful invade on the right side of the map. Meanwhile, left side, Neil pushing up aggressively in that dual lane to try and get some pressure for him and Vote. Yeah,
usually when we see a jungler rather, showing some pressure into the solo lane, either the other jungler is there, or they're on the other side of the map. This time around, Layers blinks in, tries to help out, but that buff is not going to go their way. Now, you've wasted some time, you've wasted some relics. At least your speed buff and your backs didn't get invaded. And on a Mercury, you want to make sure that you're staying pretty even. You can get Golden Blade online about the same time as, you know, like halfway into Transcendence. You're going to be, you want that power spike first, obviously. You want to farm as quickly as possible, that sort of thing. And Layer's just taking a little bit behind because he's not going to get that blue buff XP. Either way, I still think he's got a pretty good avenue to try and find some ganks here. When you're looking at the duo lane, you got a pretty good shot at charging up one of those sonic booms from behind tower and finding some pressure in that regard. You got to make sure you're hitting, because Neomod doesn't have beads. If you're going onto the Geb specifically, that could be a pretty easy CC chain for your team.
Dual lane, the pressure has been all for the Oni Warriors so far. Titans haven't been able to really step in just yet. Meanwhile, SOT was able to go back, pick up his Warlock staff in that solo lane and use that TP to come right back into lane. It's something that we didn't really see a whole lot of out of the Baron solos with the SCC teams is this teleport. I mean, what value does that bring to SOT as this game goes on?
I think later in the game when you're fighting around Fire Giant specifically, if you can ward properly and just teleport in, it's very easy to get these life of the parties after, you know, these carries are dashing out, that sort of thing. Cubo Fred, though, is level 5, and he's going to wrap around here.
Roar going to be dropped to about 60%. Need to hit one of those chains, Cubo Fred. Maybe they won't need the damage from the chain. Maybe they can just body block and drop him down in the tower. They'll do so, and Cubo Fred makes up for his mistakes by picking up first blood.
That's one of those plays where you just tell the team, like, after the kill, you're like, ooh, man, I'm a little rusty on dodge. You guys, oh, well, we still got the kill. We'll get him next time.
It's okay, first chain.
Yeah, that sort of thing, because Aurora obviously didn't have ult and didn't have beads. As one of those connected, the pullback would have been saw. But here we go. Layers finds the grab. Not going to have a kill, though.
No, but Tartarus stands still for the ultimate. Thought maybe if he would have just ran there after juking away from the major look, he should have been fine, but he decided to stand in place and die.
Yeah, I thought that, you know, with the ult after the fact, there was a nice beads. Pretty much saw that out right away. Tartarus saw it, but wasn't able to get into the wall, had to just dash, and they had the chase down potential, and Paul gets credit for that one. I think that's probably the better choice. Hold that thought, though. We're going to dive on a Cubo here?
Cubo will get hit by that root. He'll dive back in and maybe realize he shouldn't fight up against 3 different players, especially when Layers is still standing around on that Mercury. But for now, the Oni Warriors will retreat, despite the fact that Cubo is playing so aggressive. And that's just been the name of his game. In these first 5 minutes of play, it feels that every opportunity that Cubo has had to use that dash to get in, he's done it.
Yeah, now he's got the Transcendence online, so he's got a big power spike. He's able to start getting this stacked up. Powwow going to be down for a little bit longer. It's only about 75% of the way down with that cooldown. Wherever he decides to go, he will have a pretty free pull onto SOT whenever life at the party's down. Right now, it is up, and I don't think Nika's going to be able to force it anytime soon. It looks like SOT is standing at the tower line, just trying to stack up that Warlock Sash, and then never really leave this little area. Without that, I don't think there's any reason for Cubo to spend his time in right lane. Looks like the Scorpion will go down, and you might want to defend Dardes if I'm honest. Dardes doesn't have the beads, and Layers could be looking for a Sonic Boom in mid lane at any moment, but more so on this left side of the map.
We'll steal away an offering camp. Vote is in danger as Layers wraps around. Ooh. Dash jumped over. Good patience out of Vote. Holds that one in, but Dardes has rejoined the fray. Sonic Boom charged up by Layers, but instantly canceled off the rotation of the mid laner. Even Neo rotating over, and that should spell the end of the engagement on this left side.
Cubo's going in here, though.
Paul finds a lot of damage thrown his way. Cubo Fred able to put up his 2nd kill of the game. The Oni Warriors continue their onslaught throughout the map.
Yeah, Neil was there with a nice follow-up as well, just making sure to get value out of that beads. And Cubo did not have to use the powwow here, so Layers could be in some trouble. Has the Sonic Boom to get away from the pull, but no beads. And now it looks like they are going to be going in here.
Cubo dives up. Snake just off the mark by SOT, but still some good follow-up damage after. Blue buff invaded, but blue buff stolen by the Oni Warriors. Yet another one that SOT has to watch fall down.
Yeah, and they will have a small lead built up for themselves here, about 1K. The Oni Warriors have been getting pretty active, mostly around Cubo Fred. He obviously, as we mentioned, goes for that Transcendent start. Usually we see the Mace starts get more active, whereas these Transcendent starts, he's going in again.
Layers has Sonic Boom, no powwow by Cubo Fred this time around. Maybe the Mez from Aurora just enough to deter that ultimate from going through. But yet again, we see Cubo going aggressive, not using that ultimate, just maybe baiting something out, but there's not really been a whole lot from the Tartarus Titans he's been able to grab just by diving in.
Yeah, I think that Neil is always around, so making sure to, like, hey, I've got the shield for you if you need. I have the Cataclysm up pretty shortly. We already used it on Paul, got that kill and the beads down. Let's try to find some aggression, that sort of thing. Once Neil's blink is up, I imagine they'll be grouping up once again, Cubo and Neil that is, and trying to find some aggression, whether it be onto Layers, who has blink, or onto Paul, who does not have the beads available. They really have a lot of different options here. With the pressure that they've gained for themselves, they can sort of just run around the map whenever they want. Cubo, despite being so aggressive, has not found himself really aggressed upon much at all.
Even despite the earlier kill on towards Paul, he's still actually maintaining a little bit of a lead over Dardes. Maybe that is just the wave to wave at this point, but Paul's been able to find pretty decent farm on this mid lane. Clean, Coffin comes out from SOT. The dash doesn't get Nika far enough, so he'll beads it away and use his own ult. In response, this may be set up for Dardes to find the rotation in. The dive is good. SOT slowed down. Cubo Fred goes in, and SOT goes down.
Yeah, I said SOT probably isn't going to use his ult effectively, like, ever in this lane, just safely. That time around, he got a little bit too aggressive. Maybe just got a little bored of just watching the Golden Blade Nemesis clear the wave freely. And was like, hey, I'm going to ult, I'm going to get beads. And then, oh yeah, there was a dodge here if need be. Dardes also was able to fly in there. Cubo is looking for layers here, has the ult available, and I imagine we'll just ult out here.
Well, we'll use the power loud.
I
mean, it does pull too, but like you said, not really wasting anything on the side of the Tartarus Titans. Both Aurora and Layers hold on to their ults, even despite being yanked in.
Yeah, I thought there was going to be a little bit more follow-up there, but if it's just going to be Cubo versus Layers and Aurora's there to just nap time, there's no way that there's going to be any aggression, and we'll be able to hold on to Sonic Boom. So it looks like Layers did miss the window where Dardes' beads were down for that mid lane gank. Probably spent a little bit too much time trying to help out right, and I think, again, SOT was ulting to try and get Nika's beads down. Maybe they could look for an ult there, but Cubo and Dardes were just too quick. Dardes can get there essentially whenever he wants from mid lane, and then, of course, not knowing when the dodge he was a little bit too unlucky. So now, SFT's going to have to sit back in that lane for a little bit longer as those cooldowns come in. Blink and a miss from Aurora.
Aurora misses that ultimate, finds the mez on Cubo. Cubo gets thrown against the wall and is being punched to death by Layers. Sonic Boom is enough to deal the final blow. Layers puts himself up on the board, but a Cataclysm from Neil is good. The Coffin pulls Nika in, and there's not much that Nika can do to get himself on out. SOT closes out the kill, and Neil, surrounded by 4, will go down to the Tartarus Titans.
I don't know where Nika's confidence was there. There was no one following him up. He was able to just dash in twice. I think he thought he had more follow-up than he did. At that point, you've used everything. Layers obviously isn't going to die there, and they have so much CC. This is what I was talking about. It's so hard to get to the carries of the Titans when Aurora is there. Just the mez alone is enough to slow your attack speed, make sure that there's no way you're able to dive this. So essentially just a free kill. I understand wanting to help out your team and just say, hey, my presence here will be enough. Wasn't that time, and now the Tartarus Titans are able to answer back. About a 1K gold lead in their favor now.
Yeah, 1K not too bad to start out this game. 3 to 4 is the kill count. The Tartarus Titans have been the ones with the better team fighting more than anything. Oni Warriors have been putting up an immense amount of pressure. I mean, Cubo Fred has constantly been diving in towards these team fights, been trying to get as active as he can, but there just doesn't seem to be the follow-up from the Oni Warriors. The Titans have been able to answer back every single time that Cubo's gone in.
Yeah, it seems like they have the follow-up now that they are grouped and ready. I'm waiting to see where Layers rather is going to be getting active once this Sonic Boom comes in. Has the Rage online. Only 1 kill and 3 assists, but no stacks on the Rage just yet. It looks like Cyclone Spin is going to be going in here. On the Vote, gets the beat down early.
Vote's going to go down, though, since he did dive bomb in. Maybe Dardes can turn it around. No Sonic Boom will make sure that Layers can get out and gets the beats from the Chernobog. But how far can Dardes go when he's surrounded? Does get a good epic uppercut there by Aurora. Dardes dashes into the wall. But where's his path on out? He is surrounded as soon as he comes out of the wall. Layers sends him right back to the Shadow Realm. Neil Ma picked up and thrown back to the clutches of the rest of the team. Groggy Strike will come through to hold out Neil, and he will go down. Cyclone credited for the kill.
Layers did not have any stacks on Rage going into that engagement and leaves with 3. With help from the Trebuchet, Paul is also able to get that mid tower. We did see a kill in right. Obviously, SOT was looked at. Cubo was nowhere near that fight because he was trying to help on the right side of the map and will steal away that speed buff. But once you realize how many people are on the right side of the map, you know what's open on the left side of the map. That's going to be the Gold Fury.
Gold Fury will be a free pickup for the Tartarus Titans after that team fight. They find 3 big picks and an objective to boot, and that spirals that gold lead to a 3,000 boost for the Tartarus Titans. Oni Warriors not looking so hot when it's coming to these team fights. Vote is playing very aggressively now in this lane up against the Jingwei, and I mean, it's been gone on record numerous times to say that Jingwei is a god that does not care about boxing you. She will just stall you out as long as possible.
Yeah, it seemed like Vote really wanted to go for the 1v1 there and then realized pretty quickly, wait, this isn't a 1v1. Dardes, come help. Oh, now I'm dead. Now Dardes is dead. And then, unfortunately, Neil was also dead. They all just tried to help each other, and it was the one by one. They all go in a little bit too far here. But now, the good news, if you're an Oni Warriors fan, is there's no more neutral objectives to fight over at the moment. They don't really have to worry. They can just sort of get their farm game. And another good thing was that Cubo was not there. So that fight was without your jungler. Maybe if he was there, it goes a little bit better. The gold lead, however, waits for no one. Right now, it is in favor of the Tartarus Titans, and they have pretty much all the pressure they really need. It looks like Layers has been playing pretty far up in the left side jungle, really just trying to find anyone without beads. Remember, the last gank we just saw, you got the Hou beads about 45 seconds before Vote is going to feel safe, and it looks like Layers is heading that way.
Cyclone playing aggressive up against Vote, and with Aurora on the way, this should be a kill on towards Vote. The ultimate is good. The sun's rained down, but an Aegis on the tail end of the fight keeps Vote alive for a little while longer. The shield makes sure he's got some extra. The Cataclysm is good, but he will still go down. Layers credited for that kill with Paul rotating in. Neil has nothing he can do, so instead it's SOT who has to pay the price for the aggression of the remainder of his team.
It really seems like SOT is just the consolation prize right now. They're trying to find everyone they can as Neil gets blink grabbed you. I don't know if they have enough damage. Actually, it looks like he's getting shredded, so he will. And Paul, one more ability. Don't make the ult.
Sonic Boom will have to be used. Paul could not take up another tower shot to hold that. But it's a second kill for the Tartarus Titans and a tier 1 tower. A lot of value for that pick against SOT. And speaking about SOT, looking over across the board at his build, did get that Warlock staff picked up. Same with the Breastplate of Valor. But maybe something that we haven't seen in a while, Trelly, picks up that glyph very early on. How do you feel about this Breastplate of Vigilance for this Baron?
Well, this is going to help out after your ult, obviously. It lowers the auto attack damage, I should say, after the fact when you use that ult. And I think it will start to help SOT survive in this lane. When there's 3 people on top of you ganking, it's not going to help enough, obviously. And right now, oh, SOT, no.
He just got back, man. Quit bullying the poor guy. He literally just wants the farm, and his entire party is being ruined. Cubo Fred will get pulled back towards the coffin, but not pulled in all the way. Snake does go through. Shield will immune it out, and SOT walks up with the help of Cyclone Spin as backup, as well as Layers and Aurora, who have made a full rotation in, and it's going to be Neil rooted out and taken away, and will pay for the price of his team getting so aggressive, and maybe even Nika as well. The dash is good. That'll get the beads. Shield will keep Nika alive for a little while longer. And the Major Look will be off the mark.
Yeah, unfortunate for Neil. Someone had to die there. It wasn't it wasn't going to be Cubo, and it wasn't going to be Nika. So everyone said, all right, guys, let's get out of here. Then he was like, wait, what about me? Are they going to go for this Fire Giant? This is another early FG pull by the Tartarus Titans. This time, I think they actually might be able to do this.
Tartarus has the ult if he wants to spot this out and go, but there's no call from the Oni Warriors. It's going to be a 16-minute Fire Giant coming out of the Tartarus Titans. And look at the lead they've been able to push themselves. 4,000 gold, a little bit to be mitigated by this tier 1 tower. But what a nice start for the Titans, answering back to all this early action that the Oni Warriors have been forcing upon them. Titans been able to get this one going nicely.
And that is a fully stacked Rage at 16 minutes.
Gross.
That is a 3rd item Deathbringer at 16 minutes. And I imagine Layers is going to be able to back and probably upgrade it to whatever Deathbringer he wants. I imagine it's Envenom, but both of them will be able to find some use here. And you can go ahead and say it's gross.
Gross.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, so now he should be working on either a Stone Cutting Sword or a Serrated. Either one is going to help out a ton. That's a 5-0 Mercury with 5 assists. Guess what? That's every single kill the Tartarus Titans have.
So you made me say gross the 3rd time, and I wanted to wait to see if you got to that 5-0 point. That's the real gross part, is the fact that Layers is 5-0-5, been a part of 100% of the kills for the Tartarus Titans. And you want to talk about the junglers really setting the pace for the game, really setting the pace for this team. This brings me back to more of that Phase 3 Titans that we saw back in Season 8, where Layers was controlling the pace of the game, not just for his team, but just in general. We're seeing that reflected in Game 3.
Yeah, to be fair, Cubo Fred also has been a part of 100% of his team's kills. It's just
true.
Layers' number is bigger.
Much bigger.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying here. We have fully stacked Rage, 5-0, level 17 Merc. Cubo is doing things. It's just Layers is doing more things.
Correct.
So that's really the highlight point here. As the Tartarus Titans, we're starting to see if they could go for that Phoenix even without their Fed Mercury here, as Layers is trying to take the 1v1 versus Dardes. Has a lot of opportunities to get out here. I don't imagine Dardes is in too much danger unless, here we come, the Tartarus Titans are rotating over.
So rallying in, 2 crits already against Dardes. The Major Look doesn't crit. Sonic Boom charged up, but with Nico over here. That should be Layers backing away. He'll throw one punch over, but Paul will put down Dardas. Meanwhile, still with that 2v1, now in favor of the Tartarus Titans. That gets them a second kill in the fight.
There are still 2 Tier 2 towers available. We're only 18 minutes into this game, and it's already to the point where I think the Tartarus Titans, a few more picks, and they could be looking to end this game. They're not even going for those Tier 2 towers. They're going to this left side. They're trying to look for a Phoenix before 20 minutes. As Cubo trying to find the 1v1 versus Layers.
Might be able to get it here. Needs a little bit more damage. Is the bleed enough? Yes, it is. Needs that Trickster Spirit to help him out. But a good turnaround finally has shut down on this Mercury. But all the while, the Titans have pushed up this left side of the lane. They've got the minions in, and this left Phoenix should go down unless Cubo Fred can get in there and stop this and help out his team. Phoenix holds on, and Cyclone's been forced to use the airstrike to get out.
Yeah, these Phoenixes are still doing a fair bit of damage. I don't think there's any chase potential here. Cubo does not have an ultimate available, and there's no way Dardas dives in without the help of his squad. So that Cubo, that 1v1 that Cubo just found was absolutely massive. Not only shutting down Layers, which is a huge feat in and of itself, I think that saves your left side Phoenix and keeps you alive for at least one more Fire Giant. Now, the Tartarus Titans have to back off. They are able to get the Fury, the Primal Fury to be exact, and that's going to help them out a bit. But left side Phoenix, that could be like GG territory where you can just abuse the fact that someone has to go and defend that, and then the Tartarus Titans are in a much better position. So big ups to Cubo for still, once again, holding 100% kill participation in this game and getting that massive shutdown on the Layers.
Is it weird of me to say that this might have been the least impactful Fire Giant of these 3 games so far? I mean, game number 1, we saw, what, a Fury, 5 towers taken down, or it was a few towers and a couple of Phoenixes. Last game, a Fire Giant wiped all 6 towers off the map. This is the first time that we're seeing a Fire Giant not full wipe the structures.
Yeah, and I have to imagine that was just because it was a 15-50-minute Fire Giant. You do get a fair bit of gold, but there's still 2 Tier 2 towers and the left Phoenix live. So I think you're right to highlight that it wasn't as good as these early Fire Giants have been. But if you're the Tartarus Titans, you're not too upset about it. You still have about a 6K gold lead, bordering 7 at this point. You just have to play a little bit safer. Layers is level 20 at 20, so a fair bit of farming has gone his way as well. Pretty close to upgrading that Eye of the Jungle, I have to imagine. Fire Giant still 35 seconds away, and the Tartarus Titans get their chance to try and go for it once again. Looking at steal potential, if Neilmaw gets a massive Blink Cataclysm, there's a few different things that could outburst here. I mean, right now, we're just looking at crits, J-Mac. That's your confirm right now.
A lot of crits are going to be necessary. They're going to be hitting hard out of Layers. He did go back and pick up a Serrated Edge for his 4th item and picking up his starter item. Aurora does find an ultimate up onto Cubo Fred. He'll get Snake tossed down and will try and find a path out. He's got Neil to help him out. Will Neil eat the coffin for him? Yes, he will. And because of it, Neil's going to go down. SOT credited to the kill. And the Oni Warriors now without their front line.
Yes, it looks like Layers is charging up the Sonic Boom, and he is going to let this one fly. He finds Nika, but he's going to heal up a lot from that shield.
Nika's going to get a lot back, but he's going to get slowed down. The Suns will slow the rest of the Titans, but it's not going to stop Paul from dashing in. Vote is forced to walk away, and it's only 3 now of the Oni Warriors left to defend.
There's still a Fire Giant available. They are pushing as far as they can. Looks like they might be trying to get this Tier 2 tower here. Finally, someone. Layers and Cyclone Spin are going. No, they're going for Cubo.
No,
they don't even care about Fire Giant.
Who cares about a fire? We can just get a whole other kill. Just grab Cubo Fred if you can, but they can't because Cubo Fred's now under that Tier 2 tower. So the Tartarus Titans may now finally back themselves up and only send 2 players to try and take down this Fire Giant while the other 3 are pushing this mid Tier 2 tower down. That one won't go away just yet, and the damage not quite enough on the fire, especially with Cubo rotating over. Neilmaw, who just got back from his last death ulti, sent it right back again. Neilmaw is just being absolutely bullied by the rest of the Titans.
I mean, take a look at Vote. He's nowhere close, and for good reason. He's like, I don't want to go near that Fire Giant. I want items. I'm seeing how much they're critting for. I want to do that.
I want those numbers.
Yeah, so he's on the left side of the map trying to get just any bit of farm that's possible. And then Neil's like, all right, I guess I got to be the guy that goes and checks FG once again. And once again, he goes right back to base. Cubo tried as well, so to be fair, it was like, you know, I'll come with you, buddy, but I'm not going to die with you. I'm surely just going to let the Geb fall in that regard. Now, though, you are going to see a lot of power spikes come the way of the Tartarus Titans. If that's even more possible. There is still more power spikes to be had. Remember, this is only 22 minutes into the game. A very high kill game, but still pretty early on.
Yeah, Titans have complete control of this map. Still 2 towers left standing, that they can easily knock down. That'll add a few thousand more gold to their pockets and really be able to help them expand beyond there. But now that they've gotten this second Fire Giant, where in most games that we've seen throughout this tournament, this is when teams are just now grouping up for their first one. Yet the Tartarus Titans have such a hefty lead, especially amongst their jungler, a 6-1-9 Mercury. Then you throw in another Hunter along there. They've been able to absolutely melt objectives, melt towers, and have just amassed this huge lead. Where do the Oni Warriors even find an opportunity? Where do they find a pick to get back in this?
I mean, if Cuvo can 1v1 layers again, that'd be a great start.
Nice.
If they could find something along those lines, I can't imagine it'll happen again because that was a half-health layers that probably wasn't expecting the Dashi from the jungle. But they are going to still go for that tier 2 and right, and it looks like the Trebuchet is running down right lane as well. It will take a bit to get there. It's a little slower, but eventually it will make its presence known. Any sort of pick they can stall out here would be massive. Obviously, Neilma, not very tanky, only has 2.5 items to his name, but Blink Cataclysm, pop the Horrific, and then look towards your carries. That has to be the option here, and it looks like Aurora is not too afraid. He's able to face tank right now, but it looks like they're going for the right side Phoenix first, just because of that Trebuchet pushing it.
Got all 5 of the Titans here. Meanwhile, Boat's going to be very slow to get back. Aurora goes to the back line, finds Fred all by himself, and Fred is forced up onto the Palau defensively this time. Doesn't pull anybody, and Layers will grab Neilma. SOT trying to pull anybody back into the coffin. Dart has used his dash and his beads to get out. The right Phoenix has already been melted through, and the Titans will continue their push. Maybe not to the throne room, but at least over towards mid.
Yeah, they will be able to look at this mid Phoenix here. They don't have too many ultimates available to try and dive this. It's really just Sonic Boom from Layers. He will be able to charge it up from wherever he needs to from the back of that tower, as the Phoenix will be getting looked at, and it looks like the Oni Warriors are going to have to let this one go.
Oh no, Dardes gets grabbed and 2-tapped by the Tartarus Titans. Neilma back up in 1 second, but Cataclysm is down. Cuvo finds his way back to the fountain, and the Titans, after grabbing the mid Phoenix, will make their way to the left. 40 seconds left until Dardes is back on the map, but there's no Phoenixes left for the Titans to defend. Or for the Warriors, I'm sorry, to defend. The Titans can push themselves into this throne room and potentially take the game with a couple of picks.
Yeah, I think they're going to wait for fire minions here. You do have the Trebuchet over on right. Not really joined by too many fire waves just yet. They're only starting to come down about the tier 1 tower start. No one really wants to tank this up, J-Mac. I mean, the Titan is going to start swinging. Obviously, Aurora has his passive up. That could be an option. And it looks like there will be a 1v1 from Cuvo and Layers on this side.
Oh, no. Cuvo does get the Stone Shield. That helps out, but these crits are slamming by Layers. He will not make his way through. Cuvo Fred is down. It's Paul. Credit to the kill. Nika tries to slow them down, but SOT is pulling everybody back into the coffin. Nika goes down. The Tartarus Titans with only 3 left to take down before they take down this Titan. Neilma falls low. Neilma falls down. It's Cyclone Spin credited, and with the Titan down to 20% health, Dardes on his last leg. The Tartarus Titans have reverse swept the Oni Warriors to take this set away, and they will be the ones moving on in the tournament.
7 and 13, 100% kill participation from Layers on that Mercury. Just a absolute insane game out of him. It just seemed like everywhere he was, and quite literally everywhere he was, that's where the kills happened, and that's where the action was going to be happening. Cuvo was finding some reverse pressure. It just wasn't enough. He could not match the pressure of Layers on this Mercury.
I mean, when the jungler grabs one person, aka Dardes in the previous team fight, throws him back, and Dardes is dead before the throw animation is basically even finished at the point, that kind of gives you a status of the game there. Tartarus Titans a little bit slow in this set, diverting away from this triple Hunter comp that worked for them in game number 2. A new look for them. They're able to punch their ticket up into the next round of play. How will they do? Let's take to the desk to see how that set went.
Speaking of punching, J-Mac, there is a reason that we have seen Mercury banned first 3 every single, nearly every single game. I can't say every single game, because it has come through a couple times, but 7 and 1 at the end of that one. Truly an insane performance from Layers.
Yeah, I mean, that was bringing Mercury a great pick to even another level, right? This is something that I wanted to see Layers be able to do. He's able to get so much more space when he's got something like a Baron on his team. So they made the triple Hunter work, they put that aside, they made Oni Warriors respect it in their bans, and then all of a sudden they pivot to this comp, which I think is kind of the best of the meta right now, where you got the Baron solo, you get the flexibility in mid, something that like Pagon and we've seen Benny Q do with the cleaner, and then all of a sudden, you got this hard carry in the jungle as well with this Mercury crit, and your Hunter's obviously doing just as well.
And some of the replays from that game, SOT obviously has a couple decent plays here on the Baron. And this, you know, we've been talking about the Baron all week, and we've had to because of how prevalent it's been, but just the amount of sheer healing this character is able to bring out. And, you know, the damage amount wasn't huge. Only 17k, but like, it's not a bad amount of damage. But
the important stuff is what we're seeing there. He's able to pull the Geb back into the cleaner damage, able to pull the Geb back into any of their backline damage, and that sets up so well for this Mercury to do well, for this cleaner to do well, and this Jingwei to do well. They're all fast gods. They can get to this CC. So you see Akumba rooting. Now Mercury's here, and obviously he has to put up with the Geb, but already the CC's been put down. It makes it really easy for this cleaner from the wall, this Mercury to clean up the kills, and then again, they're so mobile. They're always sticking to these targets, so it's really hard to play against them. It really matches Titans in the best way possible, scrappy gameplay, right? They're not like the Kings where they want to wait for the late game, wait for the 5v5 and just clash as 5 each. Titans want to get in there 3 at a time, 2 at a time, 4 at a time, and just keep fighting. And it works for them. It's been great.
And there we just saw the kill that J-Mac was talking about on the caster side of things, where Neil was just not allowed to hit the floor before dying, and that's truly when you know you have gotten to a scary point. But the Oni Warriors are going to be our first team knocked out today, and it's unfortunate for them. They played really, really well. I think the first game especially, that second game definitely had some fight for them. This last game didn't look as tight as those first two, and they will be, I mean, getting sent home because of it.
Look, they're going to feel disappointed from this set. I think the real game for them to look back on was the start of today, where they really struggled up against the Leviathans. This game, they have more to be proud of. It is unfortunate they get eliminated on this set and don't get the chance to go play forward, but they've had a great year so far. I think, you know, especially compared to last year, they're on an upward trajectory, and as long as they stay positive, they'll continue to get positive results.
No, for sure, absolutely. This is only the end of the first split, right? We've still got a long way to get to the World Championships at the end of the year, and that's, I think, the aim for a lot of these teams, especially the ones who have, you know, fallen down already. I'm looking at the Scarabs and looking at the Warriors now. It's a long way there, and there's a lot of time between. And as you mentioned, if the Warriors can continue improving at the rate they're going, I think we could see them definitely showing up as contenders for the World Championships.
Certainly, and something else important to note is now we have Titans versus Leviathans in the next set, and those are two teams who won a bunch of tournaments, Worlds, including for Leviathans. So one of these teams being eliminated is huge in the first phase.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, can the Titans keep up their hot streak, or will they be extinguished by the Atlantis Leviathans? Find out coming up next.